Imagine for a moment that your life is a film, and right now, you're sitting inside one of its darkest scenes. The kind where the room feels too small for your chest, where every memory stings, where you look up and whisper, "Why is this happening to me?" Maybe it was a betrayal, a diagnosis, a breakup that shattered the future you thought was certain. Maybe it's not one big event, but a slow, quiet ache that visits you every night when the lights go off. What if I told you this scene was not a mistake in the script? That in the language of Buddhism, not a single tear, not a single sleepless night, not even the moment you thought "I can't do this anymore," is outside the law of cause and effect. Life is not punishing you. It is revealing you. The Buddha taught that an untrained mind can wound us more deeply than any enemy. Our thoughts repeat the same stories, replay the same hurts, until pain feels like our identity. That's why it seems like the same pattern keeps happening again and again, similar relationships, similar disappointments, similar endings. It's not that life hates you. It's that life keeps bringing back the same lesson until you finally see it. We're used to asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Buddhism gently turns the mirror and invites a different question. What is this showing me about myself? What is this asking me to awaken to pain? Feels like an attack, like the universe has turned its back. But in Buddhist wisdom, pain is not an executioner. It's a lantern. It lights up the places where we still cling, where we still expect things to stay the same, where we still believe we can control everything. Think of metal in a forge. The fire doesn't torture the metal, even though from the outside it looks harsh, violent, intense. The heat softens it so it can be shaped into something stronger, more precise, more useful. In the same way, the heat you feel right now is not there to burn you into ash. It's there to soften what has become rigid old beliefs, worn-out identities, stories you've carried for years about not being enough, not being loved, not being safe. There was once a woman who lost her job, her home, and her relationship all within the same year. People around her whispered that her karma must be terrible, that she was cursed, that life had turned cruel. For months, she lived in a small room at the edge of the city, sitting in the dim light long after midnight, asking the same question. What did I do to deserve this? One day, exhausted from crying, she walked to a nearby temple just to sit somewhere quiet. An old monk noticed her and asked nothing. He simply brought her a cup of warm tea and placed it in front of her. Her hands were trembling so badly that the tea spilled over the edge. The monk smiled gently and said, "Do you see the cup?" She nodded. "Before I poured anything inside, it was empty." That emptiness was not a punishment. It was what made it ready to receive. Perhaps your life right now is like this cup. Everything you lost was what you thought you were. Now you have a chance to see who you really are. His words didn't erase her pain, but something shifted. For the first time, she stopped asking, "Why is life doing this to me?" and began to ask, "What can grow in this emptiness?" That simple change in question didn't change her circumstances overnight, but it changed her relationship with them. The same events were there. The suffering was no longer her identity. Pain becomes unbearable when we believe it's meaningless. We can endure almost anything if somewhere deep inside we feel, "This is leading me somewhere." Buddhist teachings don't ask you to pretend your struggle is beautiful. They don't ask you to smile while your heart is breaking. They invite you to sit honestly with what hurts and look deeper. Instead of drowning in the story of "I am broken," you start to ask, what parts of me are being shown right now? Where am I still attached to how it should be? Where do I keep returning to old patterns that harm me? Pain is like a teacher with rough hands and a soft heart. It doesn't always speak kindly, but its message is precise. Ask yourself gently right now, wherever you are. What is this pain pointing at in me? Is it asking me to stop chasing people who don't see me? Is it asking me to finally rest after years of self-neglect? Is it asking me to stop living according to other people's expectations? Sometimes what you call heartbreak is actually your deepest self saying, no more. No more self-abandonment. No more shrinking who you are. No more staying where your soul is starving. We often think pain is punishment for doing something wrong, but so often it is protection. The friend who left might have saved you from years of silent disrespect. The job you lost might have freed you from a path that slowly numbed your spirit. The opportunity that slipped away might have spared you from a life that looked good on the outside, but felt empty on the inside. In Buddhist practice, we don't try to erase pain. We learn to look at it clearly. Like watching waves on the ocean, we see how sensations rise and fall, how emotions swell and fade. The more clearly we see them, the less they control us. Understanding loosens the knot. To understand all is to forgive all is a teaching often shared in Buddhist circles. When you really see the causes and conditions behind a moment, your upbringing, your fears, your confusion, the wounds of others, you begin to soften. You realize it's not about blame. It's about causes leading to results. Then something unexpected happens. Forgiveness. Not as a performance, but as a natural consequence of seeing clearly. You start to forgive others because you see their ignorance, their pain, their blindness. And slowly, you begin to forgive yourself for not knowing better sooner, for staying too long for reacting instead of responding. This forgiveness isn't a sentence that lets you off the hook. It's a door that lets you step out of the prison you built inside. So the next time life tightens around your chest, pause. Place a hand on your heart if you can. Feel your breath. And instead of assuming I'm being punished, ask, where is this trying to guide me? What illusion is this burning away? What truth about myself is trying to emerge? The answers might not come today. They might not come in the words you expect. But if you keep asking with sincerity, if you keep sitting with your experience instead of running from it, a quiet wisdom will begin to surface from within you. Not from the outside, not from someone else's voice, from the still vast awareness that has been watching your life unfold since the very beginning. Your pain has a purpose, not the purpose your fear imagines, but the purpose your awakening requires. It is not here to ruin you. It is here to carve space in you for something wider than fear, deeper than regret, more enduring than any temporary loss, the knowing that who you are is larger than what you go through. This is only the beginning of the journey. For now, let this truth rest in you. Like a small flame in the dark, you are not being punished. You are being reshaped. There comes a point on this inner path where you realize something unsettling. You can't think your way out of suffering. You've replayed the past from every angle, tried to predict the future 1,000 times, yet the tightness in your chest stays. You tell yourself, if only I understood why this happened, I'd finally be at peace. But has that ever truly worked? In Buddhist wisdom, peace doesn't wait at the end of explanation. It lives in the middle of uncertainty. Life is not a puzzle to be solved in advance. It's a journey that reveals itself one breath, one step, one moment at a time. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast mountain path at dawn. The air is cold, the sky is still dark, and only the first few stones of the trail are visible. Far ahead, clouds curl around the peaks, hiding everything from view. You want to see the whole road, the twists, the cliffs, the safe spots before you move at all. But the mountain offers you no map, only the ground beneath your feet. Buddhism teaches something quietly radical. You don't need to see the whole path to walk it. You only need to be willing to take the next true step. There was a man who once went to a teacher and said, "My life is a fog. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. Give me a plan." The teacher poured him a glass of water, then lit a candle and held it between them. "Can you see the end of the road in this flame?" he asked. The man shook his head. "Can you see your next step?" The man looked down at the floor, glowing faintly under the candlelight. Yes, that the teacher smiled is all you ever truly have. We crave control because uncertainty feels like danger. The mind believes if I can predict everything, I can prevent pain. But Buddhism reveals a softer truth. Much of your exhaustion comes not from life itself, but from your war against not knowing. When you cling to explanations, you miss the living moment. You're consumed by questions that have no immediate answer. Why did they leave? Why now? What if I fail again? These questions spiral in the mind, like storm clouds blotting out the quiet beauty of now, the warmth of your tea, the sound of rain against the window, the simple fact that in this breath you are still here. In meditation, practitioners are taught to return again and again to what's right here, the rise and fall of the breath, the weight of the body, the sounds in the room. Not because the past or future don't matter, but because clarity never comes from being lost in them. When you return to this moment, even if your life circumstances don't change, your relationship with them can. Think of a traveler, lost in a foreign city at night. Their map is useless. Their phone has no signal. Fear starts climbing up the spine. If they panic, every alley looks dangerous, every sound a threat. But if they stop, take a breath and simply look around, they might notice a lit sign, a small shop, a kind face, a familiar landmark. Nothing outside changed. Their attention did. That's what trusting the journey feels like. It doesn't mean you suddenly understand why everything happened. It means you stop insisting that you must before you can feel grounded. You let the present teach you instead of demanding that it explain itself first. There was once a young musician whose deepest dream was to play on great stages. She practiced for years, pouring everything into her art. On the night of her biggest audition, she froze. Her fingers shook, the notes slipped, and she walked off the stage, certain her life was over. For weeks, she refused to touch her instrument. The universe cheated me, she thought. One evening, unable to sleep, she stepped outside. Someone in a nearby building was playing a simple tune on an old piano. Nothing impressive, just a few gentle notes drifting into the night. To her surprise, tears filled her eyes. It wasn't brilliance that moved her. It was sincerity. It was presence. In that moment, something in her loosened. She realized that somewhere along the way, she had stopped loving the music itself and started clinging only to the outcome. The failed audition wasn't proof that life was against her. It was life showing her that she had left her own heart behind. She picked up her instrument again, not to conquer the world, but to inhabit each note fully. It took time, but the more she played from presence rather than fear, the more life began to open in ways she hadn't expected. Small invitations, deep connections, performances that actually felt alive. The path didn't unfold the way she once imagined. It unfolded more honestly. Trusting the journey doesn't mean liking every chapter. It doesn't mean pretending your confusion is enlightenment. It means staying with yourself in the middle of the unanswerable. It means asking quieter questions. Can I breathe here? Can I be kind to myself here? Can I take just one loving step from here, even if I still don't know how the story ends? The Buddha pointed again and again to the present moment, not as a slogan, but as a refuge. When the mind rushes into the past or future, it usually drags chains rattling behind it: regret, anxiety, blame, fantasy. When you come back to now, even for a second, those chains loosen. Your next step is almost never figure everything out. Your next step is usually something simple and sacred. Drink water, answer one message, rest your eyes, apologize, forgive, write one honest sentence, take one mindful breath. These seem too small to matter in the face of a chaotic life, but every great journey is carried by tiny steps that no one applauds. Trust is built in precisely these hidden moments. You don't wake up one morning perfectly surrendered to life. You learn to trust the journey each time you choose presence over panic, each time you turn toward the moment instead of away from it. Ask yourself now, where am I demanding a full explanation before I'm willing to be at peace? Is it with a person, a loss, a decision, a version of myself I haven't become yet? What would it feel like, not in theory, but in your body, to allow just one part of your life to be unresolved and still treat this moment with tenderness? You don't need the whole map. You never had it anyway. You have this breath, this heartbeat, this chance to respond with awareness instead of fear. The path ahead will reveal itself when it is time. For now, the invitation is simple and immensely difficult. Stay. Stay with yourself. Stay with this moment. Let the fog be fog while you take the step that is right in front of you. Life may not explain itself today, but if you keep walking with awareness one day, you will look back and realize the journey knew where it was leading you all along. There comes a moment on the spiritual path when a question rises from the deepest part of you, not the surface-level complaint of the mind, but a cry from the heart. Why me? It appears in the quiet hours after midnight, in the middle of a painful conversation, or when you're looking in the mirror, wondering how life became so heavy. It's a question soaked in exhaustion, in fear, in loneliness. And for a long time, it feels like the only question that matters. But what if that question is the very thing keeping you in suffering? What if? Why me is not a doorway, but a wall. Buddhism doesn't shame the question. It understands exactly why we ask it. When life hurts, the mind searches for logic. When the heart breaks, it searches for justice. When the soul trembles, it searches for meaning. But why me traps you in a loop, not because it's wrong, but because it has no satisfying answer. Life rarely hands out clear explanations. It hands out experiences. It hands out chances to wake up. It hands out mirrors. What if the pain you are facing is not personal, but purposeful? Imagine rain falling across an entire valley. It touches every rooftop, every blade of grass, every stone. But what grows from that rain depends on what the earth beneath it contains. In one place, wildflowers bloom. In another, weeds take root. The rain is the same. What changes is what receives it. Suffering is like that. It falls upon every life. Yet what grows from suffering is shaped by the questions you ask. Why me grows resentment. What now grows wisdom. There was once a young traveler who fell into a deep hole while crossing a forest at dusk. The ground beneath him simply gave way. He shouted, he cursed, he asked the sky, "Why me? Why today? Why here?" But the forest only echoed his despair. Hours passed. Exhausted, he finally stopped fighting and whispered a different question. "What can I do now?" In that soft shift, his eyes adjusted. He noticed a small stone ledge, then a root sticking out of the wall, then a patch of dry soil firm enough to push against. With slow, shaky movements, he began to climb. What freed him wasn't strength. It was the moment he stopped looking for someone to blame and started looking for a way to rise. Why me traps you in the past. What now frees you to step into the present? The Buddha taught that our suffering is amplified not by events themselves, but by the narratives we build around them. When you ask, "Why me?" you subtly assume that your pain is unfair, that it shouldn't have touched you, that life singled you out. But when you shift to, "What now?" you begin to see suffering as a teacher, not a punishment. Think of a time you felt lost, a breakup that shattered you, a decision that backfired, a chapter of life that collapsed without warning. Did the lesson come while you were drowning in "Why me?" Or did clarity arrive later, quietly, unexpectedly, once you softened, once you stopped forcing answers and allowed yourself to breathe again? Pain becomes transformation. The moment you stop taking it personally. There was once a girl who believed she had been cursed with failure. Every project she started fell apart. Every relationship ended. Every plan unraveled. She carried the belief that life was against her, like a weight around her neck. One day during a meditation retreat, she was asked a simple question. When something painful happens, why is your first assumption that it happened to you? Why not assume it happened for you? The question startled her. No one had suggested that possibility before. Could it be that the collapse of her plans was not an attack, but a correction? Could it be that life was removing what was misaligned, redirecting her, clearing a path she couldn't see yet? From that day, she began to ask different questions. Not, "Why did this happen?" but "What is this teaching me?" Not, "Why do I keep losing?" but "What am I being asked to release?" Not, "Why am I suffering?" but "How can I meet this moment with awareness?" Slowly, her world changed, not because life suddenly became easy, but because she stopped fighting the lessons it was offering. In Buddhist teachings, suffering arises from clinging, from holding on to a version of life you believe you deserve, a narrative you created long ago, an identity that no longer fits. Why me is the voice of clinging. It wants the past back. It wants control. It wants certainty. But what now aligns you with reality? It opens space. It invites movement. It allows healing. Ask yourself honestly, is the pain I'm carrying suffering? Or is it resistance? Is it the event? Or my story about the event? When you stop asking, "Why me?" you begin to see that the storms in your life are not here to destroy you. They are here to strip away the illusions you've outgrown, the illusion that other people must behave a certain way, the illusion that life owes you predictability, the illusion that growth comes without discomfort. Every hardship you've survived forced you to discover something about yourself, something you might never have found in calm seas. Pain expands your capacity for compassion. It sharpens your intuition. It humbles your ego. It deepens your presence. It awakens you. That awakening is the true purpose, not the explanation, not the fairness, not the closure. The awakening. Imagine placing your hand on your heart right now and whispering, "What is this moment calling forth in me?" Not as a trick to feel better, not as a spiritual shortcut, but as an invitation. What if life is not hurting you but preparing you? What if you are not being punished but refined? This is the pivot that changes everything. Life stops being something that happens to you. It becomes something that happens through you. Pain becomes purpose. Wounds become wisdom. The story becomes strength. And you slowly, quietly become someone you could never have imagined before the storm. Let this be the moment you release the question that has kept you stuck for so long. You don't need to determine why you were chosen for this chapter. You only need to ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What now? That is where freedom begins. There is a point on every inner journey where you look at your life and whisper, almost trembling, how much longer will this be so hard? You wait for a sign, for relief, for some promise that the storm is nearly over. But instead, life becomes heavier, quieter, more demanding. The path narrows, the heart tightens, and you wonder whether you've taken a wrong turn, whether the universe is testing you, or forgetting you, or both. But what if the very struggle you want to escape is the one shaping you into who you're meant to become? What if you're not being blocked, you're being built? In Buddhism, the lotus is revered as a symbol of awakening. But we often forget why the lotus can only bloom in the thickest mud. Without the weight of the mud, without the darkness, without the pressure, there is no bloom, not a single petal. Struggle is not a punishment. It is the mud. And the mud is not your enemy. It is your nourishment. Yet when we're in it, knee-deep, surrounded by uncertainty or heartbreak or fear, it feels suffocating. We ask, when will things finally get easier? But here is a truth many overlook. The struggle is not delaying your strength. It is creating it. Every moment of resistance, every wave of discomfort, every tear you've shed in private is part of the unseen construction of your inner foundation. Growth is not gentle. It is not clean. It is not comfortable. Growth is friction. It is pressure. It is shedding. There was once a novice meditator who attended a silent retreat deep in the mountains. For years, he had dreamed of finding peace, of reaching stillness, of discovering the truth behind his restless mind. But on the second day, he couldn't focus. On the third, he was overwhelmed. By the fifth day, he felt like running away. His legs ached. His thoughts screamed. His patience snapped. He approached the teacher, exhausted, ashamed, and said, "I'm failing. I can't do this. The more I try to calm my mind, the louder it becomes." The teacher listened quietly, then led him to a small river behind the meditation hall. The water rushed over stones, foaming, loud, chaotic. "Look," the teacher said, pointing at a large rock splitting the flow. "Do you see how the water crashes violently around it?" The student nodded. "Now watch the water further downstream." A few meters ahead, the river was calm, smooth, mirror-like. "The turbulence is not a mistake," the teacher said softly. "It is what makes the river clear. The water becomes peaceful, not by avoiding the stone, but by passing through it. Your mind is no different. What feels like failure is simply the turbulence before clarity. It's like this for all of us. Before peace, there is chaos. Before alignment, there is confusion. Before clarity, there is resistance. Before the breakthrough, there is breaking. None of this is a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that you're moving toward something deeper than comfort, something real, something lasting. Think of the times in your life that changed you the most. They were never the easy times. It wasn't the quiet mornings or the predictable seasons that shaped your character. It was the uncertainty, the heartbreak, the loss, the moments you thought you weren't going to make it. That is where your strength was forged. And the struggle you're facing now might be doing the same. Ask yourself gently, what part of me is being strengthened by this challenge? Is it your patience, your courage, your ability to let go, your willingness to trust, your compassion for yourself and others? Sometimes the struggle is not about learning something new, but unlearning what harms you. Unlearning the belief that you must please everyone, or that your worth depends on performance, or that you have to carry pain alone, or that vulnerability is weakness. The truth is, you are shedding an older version of yourself, and shedding is not comfortable. It's raw, it's disorienting, it feels like losing, but you are not losing. You are dissolving the false layers, the outdated stories, the parts of yourself that were built to survive, not to live. There is a phenomenon in nature where certain seeds only crack open in extreme heat during the intense fires that sweep across forests. Without that fire, without that destruction, those seeds remain sealed forever. They never become what they were destined to be. The fire is part of the design. What if the fire in your life right now is not destroying you, but releasing you? What if this is the heat that opens the seed? Buddhist teachings remind us again and again. What feels like backward motion is often preparation. What feels like breaking down is actually opening. What feels like chaos is a rearrangement of your inner world. Sometimes life pushes you to your knees, not to punish you, but to ground you. Sometimes it empties your hands, not to deprive you, but to prepare you to receive something truer. Sometimes it delays your dream, not because you're unworthy, but because the dream is still ripening, or you are. Take a moment right now. Close your eyes if you can. Feel the weight you've been carrying. Feel the tension in your shoulders, the stories in your mind, the pressure in your chest. And instead of asking, when will this end, ask, what is this shaping in me, not as a slogan, but as a curiosity? You may not see it yet, but something inside you is growing quietly, steadily beneath the surface. Your resilience, your clarity, your patience, your ability to sit with discomfort instead of fleeing from it. These are not small things. They are spiritual muscles. They are the foundation of awakening. One day you will look back on this chapter, all the confusion, all the breaking, all the nights you felt too tired to continue, and you will see it not as cruelty, not as failure, but as the sacred terrain that gave birth to a truer version of you, stronger, softer, wiser, more awake. For now, let this truth anchor you. You are not stuck. You are not being punished. You are becoming. And becoming is never easy, but it is always worth it. Breathe, trust the process. You are rising even if it feels like sinking. There are moments in life when you stand before a mirror, and for reasons you can't fully explain, you no longer recognize the person looking back. Not because your face has changed, but because your eyes have grown heavy with silent battles, disappointments you never voiced, dreams that faded, quietly burdens you carried alone for too long. You realize you've walked a long, twisting path, and somewhere along the way, life shifted without asking your permission. And you wonder, why does everything keep changing? Why does life keep leading me to places I never planned to go? In Buddhist wisdom, change is not a betrayal. It is the nature of existence itself. It is the breath of reality. Everything is in motion. The river flows, the clouds drift, even your thoughts arriving and dissolving like fleeting visitors. Yet when life changes suddenly, we cling to what used to be as if our grip alone could freeze time. Change hurts only because we resist it. Imagine holding a piece of ice tightly in your palm. The harder you squeeze, the more it burns, the faster it melts between your fingers. But if you let it rest gently in your open hand, you feel less pain, and you make peace with its transformation. Life works the same way, less painful, when held with openness, rather than clenched in fear. Many people believe that change steals their sense of security, but often it doesn't take away security. It takes away the illusion of security. Change forces you to ask, what in me has grown old? What no longer aligns with who I am becoming? What am I gripping not out of love, but out of fear? There was once a man who spent years climbing toward a prestigious position at work. When he finally reached it, he expected fulfillment. Instead, he felt hollow, like he had built a ladder against the wrong wall. When the company reorganized and he lost the role, he fell into despair. He thought life had robbed him of everything he worked for. One day, he visited a meditation teacher and said, "I've lost the most important thing in my life." The teacher looked at him quietly and replied, "You haven't lost anything. You've simply been returned to yourself." The words pierced through his despair like a beam of light. Sometimes what collapses was never meant to hold you. Sometimes what ends is making space. Sometimes what feels like destruction is the beginning of rebirth. Change is not life taking something from you. It is life clearing the path for what you truly need. In the Buddhist teaching of impermanence, the Buddha explained that everything arises from conditions, and when those conditions shift, things naturally fall away. Not because you failed, not because you're unworthy, but because the moment has completed its purpose. Pain comes not from impermanence itself, but from refusing to accept it. Think of autumn leaves. They don't fall because the tree rejects them. They fall because the season is asking the tree to grow in a new direction. Because letting go is the only way spring can return. Human beings, however, often cling desperately, pleading, resisting, bargaining with life. And it is the clinging, not the change, that causes suffering. There was once a woman who believed a certain relationship was her destiny. She poured everything she had into it. When it ended, she felt shattered, as though her future had been stolen. But years later, looking back with gentler eyes, she whispered, "That heartbreak didn't destroy me. It awakened me. Had it not ended, I wouldn't have discovered the life that truly belonged to me." Change was never the enemy. It was the guide, the teacher, the turning of the page when you were afraid to move on. We think we fear change, but what we truly fear is losing control. We fear uncertainty, the blank space before the next chapter begins. Yet in that very uncertainty, new possibilities are born. Think of walking at night without a flashlight. At first, everything feels threatening. The darkness overwhelms, but as your eyes adjust, you begin to see shapes you never noticed before: the glow of distant windows, the soft outline of a path, the quiet presence of the sky. So too with life, when a chapter ends, when circumstances shift, when the familiar dissolves, your inner sight begins to sharpen. You start noticing truths you were too busy, too distracted, or too afraid to see. Sometimes the change you fear is the change that frees you. Sometimes the door that closes isn't rejecting you. It's protecting you from a room too small for your future. Sometimes life removes something because you've outgrown it, because your soul has already moved on, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. Ask yourself, what part of me is life asking me to release? What is trying to unfold through this change? Who am I becoming as I let go of what no longer aligns with my path? You may not see the blessings yet. You may not feel the purpose. You may not understand the why. But understanding is not required for transformation to work. A seed buried underground cannot see the sunlight. It cannot see the soil shifting. It cannot see the shape it will one day become. Yet it grows anyway, quietly, faithfully, inch by inch, because growth is its nature. And growth is your nature too. Even now, something in you is opening. Something is loosening. Something is quietly guiding you toward the next version of yourself. One more truthful, more awake, more aligned. Nothing you lose is ever truly lost. Everything that leaves simply returns you to your path. Trust the movement. Trust the unfolding. Trust that you are not being pushed away from your destiny. You are being carried toward it. Tell yourself gently, I no longer fear change. I only fear remaining in a life my soul has already outgrown. Life often feels like a long search for meaning, as though purpose is a hidden treasure buried somewhere in a perfect career, a perfect relationship, or a perfect moment, waiting to reveal itself. Yet the more we chase it, the more it slips through our fingers, leaving us breathless, frustrated, wondering why everyone else seems to have figured out something we keep missing. But what if the truth is gentler than we imagine? What if meaning is not something we find, but something we create through the way we meet each moment of our lives, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, unseen ways? We show up with presence, sincerity, and awareness. In Buddhism, there is a teaching that says, your work is to discover your world, and then with all your heart, give yourself to it. A reminder that meaning is not an external reward, but an inner practice, a daily returning to yourself. And when you begin to see life through this lens, even the smallest action becomes sacred because it is saturated with intention. And intention is what transforms the ordinary into the deeply meaningful. Imagine holding a simple bowl in your hands, not ornate, not expensive, not rare, just a bowl. And notice how, when your mind is scattered, the bowl feels like nothing more than an object. But when your mind is attentive, when your breath is steady, when your awareness is awake, suddenly, the bowl becomes a reminder of nourishment, of gratitude, of the hands that made it, of the earth that formed it. What changed wasn't the bowl, but your presence. And this is the essence of meaning. It emerges not from what you do, but how you do it. There was once a young apprentice in a small monastery who spent years sweeping the same courtyard every morning. And one day, a visitor asked him if he ever grew bored of doing the same simple task again and again, to which the apprentice replied, I don't sweep to clean the courtyard. I sweep to clear my mind, revealing a profound truth. Meaning does not live in the action itself, but in the consciousness behind it. And when you begin to approach life this way, you realize that the search for meaning is not about waiting for a miraculous moment, but bringing mindfulness to the moment already in front of you. But so often we chase meaning as though it is hiding somewhere in the future, believing we will find it once we achieve enough, accomplish enough, become enough. Yet the more we pursue it outwardly, the more life starts to feel empty, repetitive, mechanical, and we begin to confuse movement with progress, busyness with purpose, accomplishment with fulfillment, until we reach a point where we wonder why our days feel shallow, even though they are full. But Buddhism invites us back to something simpler. Presence, the ability to inhabit each moment without rushing to the next, the ability to see life not as a series of tasks to complete, but as a landscape to awaken within. Meaning is created when you choose to live with intentionality, when you listen deeply to someone, instead of simply waiting for your turn to speak, when you take a slow breath before responding, instead of reacting out of habit, when you treat your pain not as a punishment, but as a messenger, revealing something about your heart, when you choose compassion over judgment, patience over impulse, awareness over autopilot. And the truth is, you don't need a dramatic purpose to live a meaningful life. The way you pour your morning tea, the way you fold your clothes, the way you breathe through discomfort, the way you speak to yourself when no one else can hear. These small acts are where meaning is formed, because meaning is simply the imprint of your attention. And yet many people feel lost because they expect meaning to come wrapped in clarity, certainty, or brilliance. But meaning rarely announces itself. It blossoms quietly in the background of your life, growing through the choices you make when no one is watching, through the kindness you offer, even when you are tired, through the boundaries you set when you finally choose self-respect over self-neglect, through the courage you show when you walk away from what no longer nourishes your soul. Imagine a gardener tending soil filled with rocks, weeds, and uneven ground. The garden doesn't bloom because the gardener searches for the right plants elsewhere. It blooms because the gardener works with what is already there, creates space, pulls, weeds, waters, roots, and waits with patience. And in this same way, meaning asks you not to escape your life, but to cultivate it from within. Ask yourself gently, what meaning am I creating through the way I live today? Not someday, not when everything makes sense, but now. Am I choosing actions that align with the person I want to become? Am I planting seeds of resentment or seeds of understanding? Am I using my struggle to close my heart or to soften it? Am I showing up with presence or moving through life half asleep? Meaning is not hiding from you. It is waiting for your full attention. Even your suffering holds meaning when seen through the lens of awareness, because suffering has a way of stripping away what is superficial and leaving only what is essential, teaching you what truly matters, sharpening your compassion, humbling your pride, deepening your wisdom, and revealing the quiet truths you ignored when life was easy. Perhaps the meaning of this very moment, whatever you are facing, whatever you are carrying, is not in the pain itself, but in the question. It invites you to ask, how can I grow from this? How can I live more intentionally because of this? You do not need a perfect plan, a perfect purpose, or a perfect vision for your life to have meaning. You only need presence, honesty, and the courage to meet each moment wholeheartedly. And when you begin to live this way, you discover something extraordinary. You were never searching for meaning. You were searching for yourself, and the moment you return to your awareness, you return to your purpose. Nothing is missing. Nothing is wasted. Everything, every joy, every struggle, every quiet moment is part of the meaning you are creating right now. Simply by being awake to your own life, there comes a moment in every inner journey when the exhaustion you feel is not just in your body, but rooted deep within your spirit. An exhaustion born not from doing too much, but from holding on too tightly, from fighting reality, from trying to force life to unfold according to your expectations. And the tighter you grip, the heavier everything becomes, until you realize you are no longer tired from living, but tired from resisting. This is where the Buddhist teaching of acceptance reveals its quiet, liberating power, not as resignation, not as defeat, but as the first breath of freedom. after years of suffocating under the weight of how things should be. Because suffering does not come from pain itself, but from the refusal to let things be as they are, from the belief that life must bend to your will before you can feel peace. And in that relentless struggle, you lose touch with yourself, with the present moment, with the simplicity of being alive. Acceptance is not a passive surrender, but an active softening, a conscious release of the internal resistance that keeps you locked in cycles of tension, anxiety, and disappointment. And when the Buddha said, "Peace comes from within, do not seek it without," he was pointing to this very inner shift, the movement from clinging to allowing, from controlling to trusting, from fighting the flow to moving with it. Imagine yourself in a river, gripping a branch lodged in the mud, because the current feels unpredictable and frightening. And the more you hold on, the more your arms ache, the more your body strains, the more the water tries to pull you in directions you refuse to go. But the moment you let go, not out of hopelessness, but out of trust, you find that the river doesn't drown you. It carries you. It supports you. It guides you toward places you could never reach while clinging to one spot. Acceptance is that letting go that moment. You release your grip on an idea, a person, a past version of yourself, or a timeline that no longer serves your evolution. And yet acceptance often feels impossible because we confuse it with approval, fearing that if we accept what has happened, it means we wanted it or deserved it. But acceptance is not agreement. Acceptance is simply acknowledging reality without adding layers of resistance, judgment, or self-blame. Acknowledging that what has happened and cannot unhappen. And in that clarity, your power returns. Because as long as you fight, reality wins. But when you accept reality, you finally become free to respond with wisdom instead of reactivity. There was once a man overwhelmed by loss who sought guidance from a Zen teacher, asking desperately, "How do I fix this pain? How do I make it go away?" And the teacher simply replied, "Let it be not as a dismissal, but as an invitation to stop wrestling with the moment, to stop treating pain as an enemy, to let the sorrow move through him, like weather passing across the sky." And though the man didn't understand it at first, he eventually realized that much of his suffering came not from the loss itself, but from the story he told about the loss, the belief that it shouldn't have happened, that life was unfair, that he must resist it with all his strength. And when he finally allowed himself to feel the pain without arguing with it, something softened within him. Not joy, not relief, but space. A gentle openness where peace could eventually enter. Acceptance doesn't change the situation. It changes you. It loosens the tightness in your chest that comes from insisting life be different from what it is. It releases the mental knots formed by clinging to a version of reality that no longer exists. And in that release, clarity emerges, clarity about what needs to be done, what needs to be released, what needs to be healed, what needs to be forgiven. Acceptance is not passive. It is profoundly active because it requires awareness, courage, and surrender. The courage to face what is, rather than escape into what should be the courage to feel, rather than numb the courage to trust that reality, even when painful, is a teacher rather than an enemy. Ask yourself gently, what am I resisting right now? A truth about myself, the end of a relationship, the uncertainty of the future, a part of my past I wish I could erase. Notice how the resistance feels in your body, tightness in your shoulders, weight in your chest, tension in your jaw, and then imagine, if only for a moment, loosening your grip, not releasing everything all at once, but softening just a little, giving life a tiny bit of room to move. Acceptance often begins as a small exhale, a shift so subtle you might almost miss it. But that shift is the beginning of freedom, because the moment you stop fighting, the moment stops fighting you. And in that space, you begin to understand that acceptance is not an ending, but a doorway, a transition from resisting life to participating in it, from being trapped in fear to moving with flow, from controlling to listening, from forcing to understanding. Think of a bird that keeps flying into a closed window because it believes freedom lies in that direction, beating its wings again and again, exhausting itself, frustrated, wounded, when all it needs to do is turn slightly to the left where the window is open. Acceptance is the turning, the willingness to see another way, the openness to a path you didn't plan, but which may lead you exactly where you need to go. Your mind might say, if I accept this, I'll lose something. But the truth is, you are losing much more by resisting your peace, your energy, your clarity, your presence. Acceptance gives those back to you. It teaches you to let things be without letting them define you, to let emotions pass without letting them control you, to let life unfold without assuming it must align with your expectations. And in that gentle surrender, something profound happens. You rediscover the calm that was always underneath your resistance, beneath the struggle, beneath the fear, beneath the clinging. There is a spaciousness within you as wide as the sky, and acceptance is the path back to that inner sky. So if your heart feels heavy today, if your mind is tired from endlessly negotiating with reality, if you are weary from trying to control what refuses to be controlled, place your hand on your chest for a moment. Feel your breath and whisper to yourself, let it be just for now, not forever, not completely, just for now. And notice how even this small permission loosens the grip of suffering. Acceptance is the beginning of freedom, and freedom begins with allowing life to be, as it is, not because you have given up, but because you are finally ready to live from awareness, not resistance, from presence, not struggle, from truth, not fear. There comes a point in every seeker's journey when the mind, desperate for answers, begins to collapse under its own weight, repeating the same questions like a broken mantra. Why did this happen? What does it mean? How do I make sense of this? As though understanding alone could erase all the pain, steady all the chaos, restore all that was lost. Yet Buddhism whispers a truth, both unsettling and liberating. You do not need to understand everything. You only need to awaken, because awakening is not about solving life, but seeing it clearly, living it fully, receiving it openly. And the more you chase explanations, the further you drift from the stillness already within you. The stillness where clarity naturally arises when the mind stops grasping. Imagine a candle burning in a dark room, its flame steady, silent, simple, not trying to understand the darkness around it, not questioning its purpose, not demanding certainty, just shining, just being, and in doing so, it illuminates everything within its reach without ever needing to explain itself. This is what awakening feels like, a gentle returning to your own inner light, without forcing, without striving, without needing to hold the entire universe in your hands. The mind is addicted to knowing, because it believes safety lies in certainty, but the soul seeks presence. Not answers, for presence is where truth lives, not in the tangled webs of overthinking. And often, The endless search for understanding becomes a distraction from the experience itself, a way to avoid feeling, a way to avoid the rawness of being human. But awakening asks something different. Not that you decode your life intellectually, but that you meet each moment without the armor of assumptions, expectations, or conclusions, meeting life with a beginner's mind, fresh, curious, unguarded. There was once a young practitioner who approached a Zen teacher frustrated and restless, saying, "Master, I meditate every day. I study the teachings, but I still don't understand life. Why is everything so unclear?" And the teacher, instead of answering, poured tea into a cup until it overflowed, spilling onto the table. Startled, the student cried out, "Master, the cup is full, stop pouring." And with gentle eyes, the teacher replied, "Just like this cup, your mind is too full to receive anything new. Understanding will not enter until you empty yourself of the need to understand." And in that moment, the student realized that awakening begins not with gaining, but with releasing the release of mental noise, the release of constant analysis, the release of grasping for control. And when you begin to release these things, even a little, your relationship with life begins to shift. Not because the external world has changed, but because you are no longer trying to force each moment into a shape that satisfies the mind's expectations. Awakening is like stepping out of a crowded marketplace into an open field where the silence itself becomes a teacher, where the wind, the breath, the sensations of the body become doorways into truth. Awakening is not a grand event, not a lightning bolt of enlightenment, but a series of tiny recognitions, a quiet noticing of the present, a moment of seeing thoughts as clouds, not commands, a feeling of spaciousness around your emotions, a softening where you once would have tightened a breath, taken consciously, where once you would have held it. And perhaps most beautifully, awakening allows you to realize that you don't need to know everything to be at peace, because peace is found not in answers, but in awareness, in the ability to rest in the unknown without fear. Imagine walking through a forest at dawn when mist still clings to the air, your path only visible a few steps ahead, the rest hidden by haze. Yet you keep walking, guided not by certainty, but by trust in the ground beneath your feet, trust in your own movement, trust in the unfolding. And this is the essence of awakening, not the removal of mystery, but the willingness to walk with it. So often we believe life owes us explanations, especially for the painful chapters, but explanations rarely heal. Presence does, acceptance does, awareness does. And when you stop demanding that life reveal the full script before you take another step, you begin to feel something unexpected, relief, because the burden of knowing everything was never yours to carry. Ask yourself gently, can I allow this moment to be unexplained without making it wrong? Can I let myself feel my emotions without turning them into a story? Can I sit with uncertainty without calling it failure? Can I trust my experience, even if I don't understand it? Yet awakening is not about becoming invincible or detached or enlightened in some lofty, unreachable way. It is about becoming real, present, uncluttered, awake to the truth that every moment, even the confusing ones, carries its own wisdom, a wisdom you can only hear when the mind grows quiet. And the more you awaken, the more you see that clarity doesn't come from forcing answers, but from deepening awareness. And suddenly, the questions that once tormented you soften, fade, lose their grip, not because they are answered, but because they no longer imprison you. Awakening is remembering that you are the awareness behind your thoughts, not the thoughts themselves, that you are the sky, not the storm passing through it. And when you begin to live from this place of spaciousness, life becomes less something you must solve, and more something you can explore, feel, and participate in fully. You begin to trust the rhythm of your own becoming. You begin to see beauty in imperfection. You begin to breathe again without the weight of needing everything to make sense. Perhaps this is the quiet miracle of awakening. You stop needing answers to feel at peace, because peace becomes who you are, not what you chase. And as this truth settles gently into your heart, you might realize that life was never asking you to understand it. It was asking you to inhabit it, to be here fully, courageously, openly, in the mystery, in the unfolding, in the breath that is happening right now. Without needing anything more than this moment as it is, there comes a time when loss enters your life not as a visitor, but as a storm sweeping through everything, familiar rearranging your inner world so completely that you wonder if anything recognizable will ever return. And in those moments, the human heart instinctively clings to the past, to memories, to identities, to people, to dreams that once felt certain. And when those begin to slip away, it can feel like the universe is unraveling your life thread by thread. But in Buddhist wisdom, loss is not the thief we imagine it to be. Loss is space, being created space, that at first feels like devastation, but eventually becomes the fertile ground for growth, clarity, and transformation. Because everything you lose is making room for what you truly need, even if you cannot yet see what that is. Imagine a tree in late autumn, leaves falling one by one, branches becoming bare, exposed, vulnerable. And if you didn't understand seasons, you might think the tree was dying, that something terrible was happening. Yet the tree is not dying. It is preparing, conserving, protecting, clearing space for the new life that cannot grow until the old life has been released. In the same way, the losses you experience, relationships ending, chapters, closing dreams, dissolving, are not signs of your failure, but signs that your life is entering a new season, one that requires empty hands, open space, and a willingness to shed what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. And yet loss hurts precisely because we mistake what is leaving for something we cannot live without forgetting that what is meant for us cannot be taken, and what is not meant for us cannot be kept. There was once a quiet monk who lost everything in a fire. The temple that housed him, the small belongings he treasured, even the manuscripts he had spent years studying. When villagers came to offer sympathy, they found him sitting calmly beside the ashes, watching embers fade into smoke, and one villager asked, "How can you be so peaceful after losing all you had?" And the monk replied, "Nothing I ever lost belonged to me. What burns away is not the truth of who I am." And though his words may seem distant from everyday life, their meaning is profoundly human. Loss strips away the temporary, so the essential can rise. But for most of us, the process of letting go feels like tearing, like breaking, like being asked to trust something invisible, something we cannot yet grasp. And this is where suffering deepens, not in the loss itself, but in the clinging to what has already gone. In Buddhism, there is a saying, "Let go, or be dragged," a simple yet piercing reminder that loss becomes unbearable when we resist the natural unfolding of life. Imagine carrying a heavy stone everywhere you go, gripping it tightly, because you've convinced yourself it is part of your identity. This stone might be a person, a past version of yourself, an expectation, a story of how life should have turned out. And even though the weight exhausts you, you hold on out of fear, believing that without it, you will be empty, incomplete, or alone. But when you finally decide to set the stone down, not in anger, not in despair, but in surrender, you realize two things. First, that the heaviness was never life's punishment, but your own resistance. And second, that your hands are now free to receive what was meant for you all along. Loss opens the hands that cling, the heart that fears, change the mind that insists on certainty. It teaches you, sometimes painfully, that emptiness is not the same as absence. Emptiness is spaciousness, a clearing, a beginning. Think of a room completely filled with old furniture. You cannot bring anything new inside until you first clear what no longer serves you. And your inner world functions exactly the same way. Loss creates the emptiness into which new wisdom, new love, new purpose can enter. But when you are in the middle of loss, it rarely feels like creation. It feels like collapse, like something is being taken from you unfairly, like you are shrinking rather than being expanded. And so the mind begins to grieve, not only what was lost, but the identity built around it. Because every loss is the death of a story. You once told yourself, this would last forever. This would define me. This would make me whole. And when the story dies, we mistake it for our own ending. Yet in truth, loss is often your soul outgrowing something before your mind is ready to let go. There was once a traveler who carried a bag of seeds wherever he went, believing that they were precious, irreplaceable, that losing them would mean losing his future. But each time he crossed a river, a few seeds slipped out. Each time he climbed a mountain, a few more fell through holes in the bag. By the end of his journey, the bag was nearly empty, and he mourned the seeds he believed he had wasted until he walked back the way he came and discovered a path blooming with wildflowers, trees, and fields of color, all born from the seeds he thought he had lost. Sometimes the things you think are gone forever are quietly planting themselves in the soil of your becoming. Loss is not only an ending, it is a planting. And although grief often blinds you to the new growth beginning beneath your awareness, that growth continues regardless, because life is always moving toward renewal. Ask yourself gently, what in my life is leaving? Because I have outgrown it. What pain am I holding on to? Because I fear who I will be without it. What space is being created in me that I am too afraid to acknowledge? And what if everything I've lost is guiding me towards something I am finally ready for? It may not feel like it now, but loss is not the opposite of gain. Loss is often the doorway to a deeper alignment with your true path. When something leaves your life, it is either because it has completed its purpose or because it was blocking something greater from entering. And though your mind might cling to the past, your soul already knows the truth. You are not being emptied. You are being prepared, shaped, widened, softened. You are being opened. Trust. The space loss creates trust, the nature of impermanence. Trust that what is meant for you will come in its own time, in its own form, in its own wisdom. And as this understanding settles into your heart like a quiet sunrise, you may begin to feel the first hints of peace, not because the pain is gone, but because you are no longer resisting the transformation unfolding through it, a transformation that will in time reveal the truth. Nothing you've lost was ever meant to stay, and everything you truly need is already on its way toward you. There are seasons in life when change arrives, not as a gentle breeze, but as a force that dismantles everything familiar. Your routines, your relationships, your identities, your sense of direction. And suddenly you find yourself standing in a life that feels foreign, as if someone rearranged the furniture of your soul while you were asleep. In those moments, the instinct is always the same. Resist, cling, fight, plead for things to return to how they once were, because the mind believes survival depends on stability. Yet Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the very stability we cling to is an illusion, because everything that exists is in a state of constant transformation, and resisting that truth is the birthplace of suffering. Change is not the enemy we fear. It is the doorway to growth we avoid. When you resist change, you treat life as if it is supposed to stay still, as if the people you love should remain the same forever, as if your identity must never evolve, as if the path ahead must always be straight and predictable. But life is more like a river than a road, forever shifting, flowing, reshaping itself, never meant to be grasped. Imagine dipping your hand into a stream and trying to hold the water in your fist, squeezing as tightly as you can. And notice how the harder you try to keep it, the faster it escapes. That is how change feels when you resist it, slipping through your mental grip, leaving you exhausted, frustrated, and convinced that something is wrong with your life. When in truth, nothing is wrong. Life is simply moving as life must move. There was once a sculptor who spent years working on a statue he believed would be his masterpiece, chiseling with devotion, polishing with care, shaping each curve with reverence. But one day, a crack formed across the statue's chest, ruining the perfection he had worked so hard to create. Devastated, he stopped sculpting, entirely certain that fate had betrayed him, until a monk visited his workshop, examined the cracked statue, and said, "Perhaps the stone is telling you it was meant to be something else." And with reluctant curiosity, the sculptor began again, following the natural lines of the crack, allowing the stone to guide him instead of forcing his own vision. And what emerged was not the statue he had planned, but something far more magnificent. A piece that seemed alive, fluid, full of movement. The sculptor's sorrow transformed into gratitude when he realized the crack had been the beginning of his true masterpiece, not its destruction. In this way, change often cracks the life you thought you were building, not to punish you, but to reveal a deeper, more authentic version of yourself. But because the crack hurts, because the breaking feels violent, because the dismantling feels personal, you assume that change is there to harm you rather than redirect you. Yet everything in nature teaches otherwise. The caterpillar must break down completely before it becomes a butterfly. Seeds must split open before they grow. Forests must burn for new life to emerge, and you too must shed what no longer fits the shape of your becoming. When you resist change, your suffering multiplies because the mind is arguing with reality. This shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be here. I should still have what I lost. Things should go back to how they were. But Buddhism teaches that reality is always kind, even when it is difficult, and resistance is always unkind, even when it is understandable. The truth is simple, yet hard to accept. Change is not what hurts you. Hurting yourself by fighting change is what hurts. Ask yourself gently, what in my life am I gripping long after life has released it? What identity am I clinging to that I've secretly outgrown? What relationship or dream or expectation am I terrified to let go of because I cannot imagine who I will be without it? Notice how resistance feels inside your body, like a tightening, a shrinking, a refusal to breathe deeply. And now imagine loosening your grip, just a little, not letting go completely, just softening the tension by 1 degree, allowing the flow of life to move around you rather than against you. This is how transformation begins, not with dramatic leaps, but with subtle shifts in willingness. Change becomes less frightening when you see that life is not taking something from you. It is presenting you with a new shape, a new rhythm, a new possibility. And when you stop resisting, you begin to notice signs you missed before, opportunities that were invisible during your clinging people you couldn't appreciate because you were holding on to someone else. Strengths within yourself that didn't have room to emerge until the old parts of you dissolved. Embracing change doesn't mean liking it, nor does it mean pretending everything is fine. It simply means acknowledging what is instead of insisting on what was. And in that acknowledgement, you reclaim your power. Think of a river again. It never clings to the water that has passed through its banks. It doesn't mourn the stones it has moved, the bends it has carved, the landscapes it has traveled. It simply flows, shaping and reshaping, trusting the movement of gravity and time. The river's power is not in resisting, but in surrendering to the nature of its own existence. In the same way, your greatest strength is found not in resisting the changes of your life, but in moving with them, trusting that each shift brings you closer to the truth of who you are meant to become. Change is not a threat to your identity. It is the evolution of your identity. It is the shedding of outdated selves, the release of borrowed expectations, the dismantling of illusions, and the emergence of a self that is deeper, wiser, more spacious, and more aligned with the present moment. When you stop resisting change, you begin to feel something unexpected relief, because the weight you've been carrying was never the change itself. It was your attachment to how you thought life should unfold. And as you soften, as you trust, as you step into the unknown, with even the slightest openness, life meets you with a clarity that was hidden behind your fear. One day, looking back, you will see that nothing truly meaningful was ever lost through change, only the illusions that held you back. You will see that every shift, every ending, every unexpected turn was shaping your path with a wisdom far greater than your own plans. And you will realize that life was never unraveling. It was unfolding. There are moments in life when something unexpected strikes a harsh word, a betrayal, a failure, a disappointment so sharp it slices through your confidence. And in the instant it happens, your whole inner world contracts. Your breath shortens your chest, tightens, and before you even realize it, your mind has already reacted, spinning stories, igniting emotions, painting the event as an attack, a threat, an injustice. Yet Buddhism teaches that the true power in your life does not lie in what happens to you, but in how you respond, because external events are like sparks, neutral, fleeting, momentary, while your response is the flame that either warms or burns, heals or harms, liberates or traps you within the cycle of suffering. Imagine a spark landing on both wax and clay. The wax melts while the clay hardens, not because the spark was different, but because the nature of what received it was different. And in the same way, your reaction to life is shaped not by the event itself, but by the state of your awareness. When your mind is untrained, every trigger becomes a wildfire, every emotion becomes a command, every thought becomes a truth. But when your mind is cultivated through presence, curiosity, and mindfulness, you create a sacred pause, a moment of spaciousness between the stimulus and your response. And within that pause lies your freedom. Think of this pause as a small window of awakening, the moment you breathe instead of explode, observe instead of absorb, respond instead of react, a moment so brief it can pass unnoticed, yet powerful enough to change the trajectory of your life. There was once a traveler who carried 2 jars, one filled with clear water, the other with ink, and each time insulted or challenged, he instinctively opened the ink jar and splashed darkness into the world, convinced that his reactions were justified. One day he met a monk who gave him a simple teaching. If you react with darkness, the world will always give you reasons to stay in shadow. If you respond with clarity, the world will reveal clarity. And though skeptical, the traveler tried it. He began reaching for the clear water instead, and slowly he noticed that situations once fueled by conflict were softened by understanding moments. Once filled with anger, dissolved into calm, and in time, the world around him changed, not because the world changed, but because he did. This is the essence of mindful response, reclaiming your inner authority, instead of surrendering your peace to the unpredictability of life. For pain will come, uncertainty will come, challenges will come, but when you meet them with awareness, you stop letting them define you. Instead of, "This ruined my day," you learn to ask, "What part of me is reacting? And how can I respond from awareness instead of fear?" And even this small shift transforms suffering into wisdom. Your true strength is not measured by how perfectly you avoid hardship, but by how gracefully you navigate it, how consciously you breathe through it, how gently you choose your words when your emotions beg you to lash out, how deeply you anchor into presence when the world tries to pull you into chaos. And the more you train your mind to pause, the more you discover that you are not a puppet of the past, but the creator of the present, not the echo of old wounds, but the witness of each new moment. Imagine a lake on a windy day, waves rising, stirring, breaking, but beneath the surface lies stillness untouched by the storm. And that stillness is your true nature, the awareness that remains calm even when emotions swirl wildly above it. When you respond from that inner stillness, your actions become medicine instead of poison, clarity instead of confusion. Ask yourself gently, how many moments of peace have I lost because I reacted without awareness? How often have I let one passing event define my entire day? How would my life change if I met each challenge with one conscious breath? Before I answered, you cannot control life, but you can always choose your response. And that choice is where your spiritual mastery begins. The Buddha taught that mindfulness is the path to liberation, not because it makes life easier, but because it allows you to meet life with a calm, steady, awakened heart. And when you learn to respond instead of react, you reclaim your energy, your peace, your clarity. You reclaim yourself. One day as you look back, you will see that the moments that once overwhelmed you lost their power. The moment you stopped giving them your reaction and started offering them your awareness. And from that awareness, every challenge becomes a teacher. Every trigger becomes an invitation to grow. Every difficulty becomes a threshold into deeper wisdom. There comes a phase in every inner journey when life begins to feel chaotic in a way that almost seems intentional, as if every certainty you relied upon suddenly dissolves. Every direction becomes unclear. Every step forward feels like sinking deeper into confusion, and you wonder whether something is wrong with you, whether you've made a mistake, whether life is punishing you. But Buddhism offers a profound perspective that turns this fear on its head. Growth often disguises itself as chaos, not because chaos is bad, but because old structures must crumble for new understanding to arise, and clarity cannot enter a mind still clinging to outdated beliefs, identities, and expectations. When your life feels chaotic, it does not mean you are falling apart. It means you are being rearranged. It means the universe is clearing what no longer aligns with your evolution. Imagine an archer pulling back the bow from the outside. It looks like backward motion, like tension, like strain. Yet that very backward pull is what gives the arrow its power, its direction, its momentum. In the same way, life often pulls you backward before launching you into a deeper truth, a clearer path. a more awakened version of yourself. And what feels like regression is often preparation. But when you're in the middle of the pull, it feels like breaking. Your routines collapse, your emotions intensify, your thoughts scatter. Your old identity no longer fits, but the new one hasn't formed yet. This in-between is what Buddhists sometimes call the fertile void, the uncomfortable, spacious, disorienting place where transformation begins long before you recognize it as transformation. And though the void feels frightening, it is also sacred, because only in emptiness can something new arise. There was once a young calligrapher who practiced diligently for years, filling scroll after scroll with elegant characters striving for perfection. But the more he perfected the technique, the more mechanical his writing became, until his master told him to stop practicing entirely. Confused and frustrated, he stopped writing. Days turned to weeks, and soon he felt lost without the routine that had defined him. When he finally returned to his master, asking what to do, the master handed him a fresh brush and said, "Now write not from discipline, but from emptiness." And the calligrapher discovered that his new work carried a life, a depth, a freedom he had never known before. The chaos, the pause, the dismantling it had all been preparation. So often when life disrupts your plans, when familiar foundations crack, when people exit unexpectedly, when emotions surge, for no clear reason, you assume you're failing or breaking down. But what if you're not breaking down? What if you're breaking open? What if chaos is clearing the way for something you couldn't access, while everything was too stable, too predictable, too controlled? Growth rarely feels like growth when you're in it. It feels like confusion. It feels like losing your balance. It feels like losing parts of yourself you thought were permanent. But the deeper truth is that chaos is not an enemy. It is a mirror showing you what was never real, never stable, never truly yours. It reveals what you cling to, what you fear, what you avoid, what you've outgrown. And in this revealing, it gives you a priceless opportunity, the chance to rebuild your inner world on a foundation of truth, not illusion. Think of a snow globe when it sits still. Everything looks calm, orderly, predictable, but shake it, and suddenly everything swirls in all directions, overwhelming to the eye. Yet, it is in the swirling that the hidden beauty appears, the intricate dance of each tiny piece, and when it settles again, it settles into a new pattern. Your life is like that. The shaking feels chaotic, but it is what reveals the unseen, the unhealed, the unexplored. Ask yourself gently, what in my life is being shaken? Because it's time for me to see it clearly. What illusions are fading, so truth can take their place? What old identities are dissolving, because they no longer match who I am becoming? Chaos is often a form of compassion. Life loosening your grip on what is small, so your hands can open to what is vast. But the mind conditioned to equate stability with safety panics. When the familiar dissolves, whispering, "Something is wrong." Buddhism whispers back, "Nothing is wrong. You are awakening." Even the pain you feel has intelligence. Even the confusion has purpose. Even the unraveling is part of the reweaving. Sometimes the very moment you think you're furthest from clarity is the moment clarity is rising beneath the surface, quietly, patiently waiting for your resistance to soften. And when you stop fighting the chaos, when you breathe into it, surrender to it, observe it without judgment, something surprising happens. The chaos becomes less like a storm and more like a tide. Powerful, yes, but rhythmic, purposeful cleansing. And gradually, you begin to notice small openings, insights you never saw before. opportunities you were once too distracted to notice strengths. You didn't know you possessed truths that feel frightening, yet liberating. And you realize that chaos did not enter your life to destroy you. It entered to free you. One day, when this chapter is behind you, you will look back and say, "That was the moment everything began to align," even though it looked like everything was falling apart, because the universe often rearranges your life long before it reveals the plan behind the rearrangement. Trust the shaking. Trust the unraveling. Trust the space being created. Clarity is coming not from forcing order, but from allowing the chaos to reveal what needed to be seen. There comes a moment, quiet, unannounced, almost invisible, when you begin to realize that life itself has been teaching you more consistently, more patiently, more compassionately than any book or philosophy ever could. And in that moment, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing difficulties as punishments and begin to recognize them as teachers, disguised as ordinary days, ordinary struggles, ordinary breath. Buddhism teaches that every moment is a teacher, not just the beautiful ones, not just the spiritual ones, not just the peaceful ones, but the messy moments, the disappointing ones, the confusing ones, the moments when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel lost, when you feel like everything is going in the wrong direction. Those moments often carry the deepest lessons, not because pain is noble, but because pain breaks through the layers of distraction that normally shield us from our own truth. Imagine waking up each morning with the understanding that every experience, every person you meet, every emotion that rises is part of a sacred curriculum designed not by fate, but by the natural unfolding of cause and effect. A curriculum written in the language of life itself. And the question is no longer, why is this happening? But what is this moment teaching me about myself? Because life is continuously reflecting you back to yourself. The impatience you feel in traffic is a mirror. The frustration you feel with another person is a mirror. The ache in your chest when someone leaves is a mirror. The joy you feel when you help someone is also a mirror. Life is always speaking, but most people don't know how to listen because they expect wisdom to arrive in dramatic revelations, in thunderous clarity, in transformative breakthroughs. When in truth, the most profound lessons are often whispered, subtle woven into the gentle fabric of your everyday existence. There was once a wanderer who traveled far searching for enlightenment, moving from monastery to monastery, studying with teachers, meditating in caves, hoping for some grand revelation that would unlock all the mysteries of his suffering. After many years discouraged and exhausted, he sat beneath a tree and noticed a small bird hopping along the roots, pecking the earth, then pausing to stare into the distance as if listening to something unseen. For reasons he couldn't explain, tears fell down his cheeks, not because the bird had revealed any secret teaching, but because he suddenly understood the lesson he had missed for years. Awakening is not found in extraordinary moments, but in paying attention to the ordinary ones. Wisdom was never hidden. It was simply overlooked. And from that day on, the wanderer stopped seeking life elsewhere and began learning from what was already in front of him. Every moment is teaching you something: patience when things move slower than you want, humility when your plans fall apart, compassion when someone else's pain echoes your own resilience, when you're asked to stand back up again, clarity when chaos forces you to choose what truly matters, surrender when life doesn't bend to your will. The challenge is not that life isn't teaching you, simply haven't been taught how to listen. Mindfulness is the art of listening to the moment without trying to change it, without labeling it as good or bad, without assuming you already know what it means. Because the moment you assume you know, you stop learning. And when you stop learning, suffering repeats itself in cycles, returning again and again, not because life is cruel, but because the lesson has not yet been received. Think of a student copying the same mistake in multiple assignments, not out of punishment, but because understanding hasn't yet blossomed. Life returns the same emotional patterns, the same types of relationships, the same frustrations, the same triggers. Not because you're unlucky, but because the lesson hidden within them is asking to be seen, understood, integrated. Ask yourself gently, what is the recurring lesson life is trying to teach me right now? Is it asking me to set boundaries instead of people-pleasing? Is it asking me to let go instead of gripping what cannot be kept? Is it asking me to soften instead of harden? Is it asking me to rest instead of push? Is it asking me to speak honestly instead of hiding behind silence? Or perhaps it is teaching me to trust the unfolding, even when I don't understand it. You may not know the answer immediately, but the moment you begin asking, you have already begun awakening. Life speaks through contrast. Joy teaches gratitude. Sorrow teaches depth. Conflict teaches understanding. Silence teaches presence. Failure teaches humility. Endings teach acceptance. Beginnings teach courage. Every thread is necessary. Every season has a purpose. Every experience shapes the landscape of your consciousness, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones, because pain has a way of stripping away illusions, revealing what matters, forcing you to look inward in a way comfort never could. And yet the lesson is not about glorifying suffering, but about understanding it, seeing how it arises, how it passes, how it changes you, how it opens you. The Buddha taught that suffering is not the enemy. Ignorance is. The moment you become aware of what a difficult moment is teaching you, the moment you see clearly without denial, without distraction, without resistance, your relationship with suffering transforms. Imagine walking through your day knowing that every step has meaning, every challenge has wisdom, every breath is an opportunity to return to yourself. Imagine treating the present moment not as an inconvenience or an obstacle, but as a sacred messenger. Imagine meeting life not with impatience or frustration, but with curiosity. What is this showing me? What is opening through this? Who am I becoming because of this? Suddenly, even the smallest experiences become alive with insight. A conversation with a stranger, the quiet discomfort before sleep, the moment your plans shift unexpectedly, the softness you feel after forgiving someone, the tension you feel when your ego flares. All of it becomes part of your awakening. And perhaps the most beautiful revelation is this: life has never stopped teaching you, not even for a moment. Even your confusion is a teacher reminding you to pause. Even your mistakes are teachers guiding you toward wisdom. Even your heartbreak is a teacher expanding your capacity for love. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is meaningless. Nothing is separate from your evolution. When you finally understand this, not intellectually, but experientially, you stop fighting the moment and begin learning from it. You stop chasing enlightenment and begin embodying it. You stop seeking teachers outside yourself because you realize the greatest teacher has always been within you, your awareness. One day, you will look back and see that the lessons were not in the extraordinary moments, but in the ones you dismissed, overlooked, or avoided, the moments that quietly shaped your soul. And you will realize that life was never punishing you. It was preparing you, never abandoning you. It was guiding you, never confusing you. It was awakening you. There are times when life feels like a quiet ache in the chest, an unspoken heaviness that lingers beneath the surface of your days, an unease you can't quite name, a sense that something inside you is shifting, stretching, dissolving, even if nothing externally has changed. You may still wake up at the same time, follow the same routines, speak to the same people, and yet deep within you, something feels different, as if your soul is whispering that the life you've been living no longer fits the person you are becoming. This subtle discomfort is not a sign that you are lost. It is a sign that you are outgrowing old versions of yourself, slipping out of identities that once felt safe, but are now too small for your expanding consciousness. Outgrowing yourself is a sacred transition, but it rarely feels gentle. It feels like confusion. It feels like restlessness. It feels like standing at the threshold of a doorway you cannot yet see. Buddhist wisdom teaches that identity is not fixed, but fluid, a passing arrangement of conditions, beliefs, emotions, memories, and stories, all of which arise and dissolve moment to moment. Yet humans cling to identity as if it were permanent, saying, "This is who I am," long after that version of themselves has expired, and so the discomfort grows, not because life is wrong, but because you are holding on to an outdated self. Imagine wearing shoes that fit you perfectly years ago, shoes you once adored, shoes that carried you through important chapters of your life. But now your feet have grown, and the shoes no longer support you. They pinch, they restrict, they cause pain. But instead of removing them, you keep walking, insisting, these must remain your shoes, because they once were, and so every step becomes more painful than it needs to be. This is how it feels to cling to an identity that no longer aligns with your inner truth. Life begins to whisper, loosen your grip. Your soul begins to nudge, there is more. Your body begins to signal something must change, but instead of listening, many people tighten their hold. They cling to careers that drain them, relationships that diminish them, habits that numb them, dreams that belong to a younger version of themselves. All because letting go feels like losing control. But in Buddhism, the true loss is not letting go. The true loss is clinging to what your spirit has already outgrown. There was once a lantern maker known for creating the most intricate lanterns in the village. Delicate frames, elaborate patterns, glowing colors. Yet as years passed, his hands grew tired, and the designs he once mastered felt suffocating, repetitive, lifeless. He told no one, but inside he felt trapped by the very craft he was praised for. One evening, overwhelmed, he stepped outside and watched a moth quietly land on a bamboo shoot, its wings simple, unadorned, yet breathtaking. In that moment, he understood he had been trying to replicate the beauty he once created, instead of allowing his creativity to evolve. The next morning, he shattered his old frames and began crafting lanterns, unlike anything he had made before, lighter, freer, imperfect, alive. And though some villagers resisted the change, those lanterns carried a spirit that touched people in ways his old designs never could. He had not lost his gift. He had rediscovered it. Sometimes outgrowing yourself is not about becoming something new, but about remembering something true. The discomfort you feel today may be the signal that something in you is ready to be released. An old pattern, an old belief, an old expectation, an old dream, an old version of who you thought you needed to be to survive. Ask yourself gently, what am I holding on to that once protected me, but now limits me? What part of me is asking to soften, to expand, to evolve? What truth have I been avoiding because it threatens the stability of my current identity? Often the fear is not that you will become someone unfamiliar, but that you will no longer fit into the life you built around your old self. But Buddhism teaches that impermanence is not only the nature of life, it is the nature of self, and resisting that truth fractures the heart. Embracing it, however, slowly brings relief. You are allowed to outgrow people who expect you to remain the same. You are allowed to release dreams that no longer call to you. You are allowed to evolve beyond the comfort of the familiar. You are allowed to step out of the cage of your own past, and the moment you allow yourself to shed these layers, you will discover something profound. The version of you that you feared losing was never the final one. It was only a temporary expression, a stepping stone toward a deeper self. Imagine a snake shedding its skin, not because the skin was bad, but because it became too tight, too restricting, too confining for its growth. The shedding process is vulnerable, raw, uncomfortable, but the alternative is suffocation. Your soul too must shed, expand, release, and transform. Perhaps the unease you feel lately is simply your next skin forming beneath the surface, preparing you for a self that breathes more deeply, loves more honestly, speaks more truthfully, and walks more freely through life. Trust that feeling, even if it is subtle, even if it is confusing. Your inner evolution is already in motion. One day, you will look back and see that this period of discomfort was not a crisis, it was a transition. Not an ending, it was an opening. Not a loss, it was an emergence. And you will thank yourself for having the courage to let go of who you were so you could become who you were meant to be. There are moments when you stand at the edge of your own life, feeling torn between who you have been and who you are becoming, caught between the fading echoes of your past and the quiet pull of a future you cannot yet see. And in this in-between space, everything feels uncertain. Your thoughts, your desires, your direction, even your sense of self and the mind begins to panic, grasping for something solid to hold on to. Something familiar, something predictable, yet nothing feels steady anymore. This is the moment when transformation begins, not with clarity, not with confidence, but with a subtle unraveling, a gentle but undeniable dissolving of the self you once believed was permanent. Buddhism teaches that our suffering arises not from the impermanence around us, but from the illusion that we ourselves should remain unchanged. Identity becomes a cage we decorate, reinforce, defend, and cling to, even when it no longer reflects the truth of who we are. And so life, being wiser than our fear, begins to gently dismantle the walls we've built around our own becoming. Often this dismantling arrives through discomfort, a restlessness. You cannot explain a shift in relationships that once felt stable, a longing that emerges without warning, a dream that no longer excites you, or a path that suddenly feels too narrow. And though the mind interprets this as a sign something is wrong, it is actually a sign that something within you is awakening to the reality that you are meant to grow, to expand, to evolve beyond the edges of your old identity. Imagine a bird whose wings have grown stronger, wider, fuller over the years, yet it still remains inside a cage built long ago, a cage that once kept it safe, but now restricts its movement. The bird feels the pressure in its chest, the urge to stretch, to fly, to rise, but the door has been open all along. The only thing keeping it inside is habit, memory, and the fear of the unknown. And when the bird finally steps outside, not because it is fearless, but because it can no longer endure the confinement, it discovers the truth. The sky was always waiting. Your sky is waiting too. But to reach it, something in you must crack open. Something old must break. Something familiar must fall away. There was once a gardener who grew bonsai trees Small contained perfectly shaped miniatures that reflected beauty through their controlled form. One day, a seed fell into the soil outside the pot and began to grow freely, uncontrolled, untrained. At first, the gardener tried to trim it, shape it, restrict it. But the young tree resisted, stretching upward, expanding outward, moving beyond every boundary he tried to impose. Eventually, the gardener stopped, stepped back, and simply observed. In its wild growth, the young tree held a kind of beauty that the bonsai never could, a beauty born from freedom, alignment, and authenticity rather than control. Watching it, the gardener realized he had spent his life trying to shape trees into what he thought they should be, instead of allowing them to become what they naturally were. And in that realization, he began tending his garden differently, not by restricting, but by supporting, not by forcing, but by allowing. This is how your soul longs to grow freely, naturally, authentically, not according to your fears or conditioning, but according to its true nature. But the mind resists because change threatens the structures that once provided safety. It whispers, "What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if I disappoint others? What if I don't know who I am without this?" Yet Buddhism teaches that identity is not something you are. It is something you experience. It flows, it shifts, it evolves like the breath, like the seasons, like the waves on a shore. And the more you cling, the more you suffer, because clinging traps you in a version of yourself you have already outgrown. So ask yourself gently, where in my life am I forcing myself to stay small? What dream have I silenced because it felt inconvenient to my current identity? What truth keeps returning, no matter how many times I push it away? What version of me is silently dying, so a truer version can be born? This is not about abandoning your responsibilities or rejecting your past. It is about releasing the illusion that you must stay who you once were. It is about stepping into the fluidity of your own, becoming trusting that the self who wants to emerge is wiser, deeper, and more aligned than the self you are clinging to. The path of awakening is not linear. It bends, it curves, it loops back. It cracks open layers of you that you didn't even know existed. And often the most profound transformation doesn't begin with courage. It begins with exhaustion, with the recognition that you can no longer pretend, no longer shrink, no longer fit into the life that once fit you. And slowly, without forcing anything, without pushing, without demanding answers, you begin to soften. You begin to listen. You begin to let go of what no longer resonates. You begin to speak truths you once swallowed. You begin to choose peace over pleasing, authenticity over approval, alignment over attachment. And though this shift feels like stepping into unknown territory, it is actually a return to your true nature, to the part of you that has always known who you are beneath the noise, beneath the conditioning, beneath the expectations. One day, perhaps sooner than you think, you will look back at this period of uncertainty and realize it was not the collapse of your life, but the expansion of your soul. You will see that you were never breaking down. You were breaking open. You were never losing yourself. You were finding the parts of you that had been buried under years of survival. And you will whisper to yourself with gratitude, "Thank you for not giving up on me when I was shedding who I used to be." Trust this unfolding. Trust the discomfort. Trust the quiet pull toward your next becoming. Even if you cannot see the sky, yet your wings are already growing. There comes a stage in your inner evolution when silence itself becomes a teacher, not the peaceful silence you seek during meditation, nor the comforting silence of a quiet morning, but the heavy, unsettling silence that follows. Endings, transitions, unanswered questions, or moments when life stops giving you the clarity you desperately want. And in this silence, the mind grows restless, searching for explanations, creating stories, replaying memories, clinging to what was familiar, even if it no longer exists. Yet nothing responds. Not the universe, not your intuition, not the people you once depended on. And this absence of answers feels like abandonment, like standing alone in a vast, echoing space with only your fears for company. But in Buddhist wisdom, this silence is not emptiness meant to frighten you. It is space meant to transform you, a sacred pause between the exhale of your past and the inhale of your future, a stillness where the self you once were quietly dissolves, and the self you are becoming begins to take form, not through force, not through clarity, but through surrender. Many people mistake this silence for stagnation, but in truth, it is the deep soil where your next chapter is rooting itself unseen. Imagine a seed buried underground from the outside. Nothing appears to be happening. No movement, no sound, no visible growth. Yet within the darkness, the seed is cracking, expanding, preparing, reshaping itself, dying as a seed so it can be reborn as something entirely new. This is what your silence is doing to you. It is dissolving outdated identities, old narratives, conditioned fears, all the illusions that once defined you but cannot accompany you into your next becoming. And though this dissolution feels like emptiness, it is actually creation in disguise. There was once a hermit who lived high in the mountains, known by villagers for his wisdom. People traveled far seeking his guidance, asking questions about suffering, love, purpose, and the meaning of life. Yet whenever someone came to him in confusion or heartbreak, he would often lead them to a still, quiet lake hidden behind the forest, saying nothing, offering no explanation. They would sit beside the lake, frustrated at first by his silence, expecting a teaching, longing for a profound insight. But eventually, the reflections on the water, the calm of the air, the absence of words, would begin to reveal something the hermit could never express through language. The clarity they sought was not something to be given, but something that arises when the noise within them settles. And when their hearts softened, when the turbulence inside quieted, the answer would come not from the hermit, but from within themselves. Years later, when asked why he rarely spoke, the hermit replied, "The truth lives in silence. I only offer the place to hear it." This is the paradox of silence. It feels like nothing, yet it holds everything. It feels like loss, yet it carries the seeds of your greatest revelations. It feels like abandonment, yet it is the intimate presence of life inviting you inward, asking you to trust what cannot yet be seen. But trust is difficult when you are used to relying on certainty, when your mind is addicted to explanations, when you've built your sense of safety on knowing rather than being. And so the mind panics in the silence, trying to fill the void with noise, overthinking, planning, catastrophizing, replaying what-ifs, because noise feels safer than not knowing. But Buddhism teaches that not knowing is where awakening begins, that spaciousness is where the deepest truths take root, that silence is not the absence of life, but the essence of it. Ask yourself gently, what am I afraid to hear in the silence? What emotions rise when the distractions fall away? What truths surface when I stop forcing clarity? What version of me is life asking me to release? So a truer version can emerge. The silence is not punishing you. It is showing you what you've been running from. It is showing you the grief you never processed, the dreams you abandoned, the fears you suppressed, the intuition you ignored, the boundaries you never set, the longing you buried under expectations. And though facing these truths feels uncomfortable, it is this very discomfort that liberates you. Think of a caterpillar in its cocoon within that tiny chamber. Everything that once defined it begins to dissolve its form, its structure, its identity. And in the stillness, in the complete absence of movement, transformation is occurring in ways that no eye can witness. It cannot rush the process. It cannot cling to its old form. It cannot demand clarity. Its only task is to surrender. And when it finally emerges, not as what it once was, but as what it was always meant to become, the wings that unfold have been shaped by the silence it once feared. You too are in your cocoon of silence, dissolving, shedding, expanding in ways you may not recognize yet. And though the mind may resist, crave answers, or judge this stillness as stagnation, your deeper self, the part of you connected to truth, wisdom, and the rhythm of life, knows that silence is not the end of your story, but the rewriting of it. Sometimes the universe goes quiet because you are not meant to hear anything yet. Sometimes clarity waits for the moment when you are finally still enough to receive it. Sometimes answers arrive only after you have let go of the questions. There is a profound teaching in Buddhism that says, when the mind is still, the truth reveals itself. Not when the mind is searching, not when the mind is striving, only when it is still. And stillness is not something to be chased. It is something that naturally arises when you stop resisting the moment, stop fighting the silence, stop demanding that life speak when it is asking you to listen. One day when you look back, you will see that this silence was not empty at all. It was full of guidance, full of transformation, full of unseen shifts aligning your path. You will see that the answers you sought were growing quietly beneath the surface, like roots strengthening before the bloom. And you will understand that the silence was not a pause in your life, but the beginning of your awakening. There comes a period in your inner journey when life feels as though it is asking you to carry more than you believe you can, when responsibilities pile up, emotions intensify, and the world seems to demand your strength at the very moment you feel most fragile. And in these moments, the instinct is to tighten, to brace yourself to fight against the weight you're carrying, convinced that if you don't resist with all your might, everything will collapse. Yet in Buddhist wisdom, this resistance is the very thing that multiplies your suffering, because the weight is rarely what breaks you. It is the refusal to soften beneath it. You are not meant to be rigid. You are meant to be like water, soft fluid, yielding yet powerful beyond measure. The world teaches hardness. Be strong. Don't let them see you break. Push through. Force yourself to keep going. But nature teaches softness. Water wears down mountains. Wine shapes landscapes, roots, split stone. And the most powerful forces in existence are those that move gently, steadily, patiently. Softness is not weakness. It is strength in its most purified form. Most suffering comes from the belief that you must hold everything together alone, that you must contain. Your emotions suppress your fears and appear unshakable, even when your inner world trembles. But when you cling to this illusion of control, you create tension where there should be surrender, resistance, where there should be flow, self-judgment, where there should be compassion. Imagine holding a large, heavy jar with your arms tense and rigid. The weight feels unbearable. Your muscles tremble, and soon you are certain the jar will slip and shatter. Now imagine holding the same jar with softened arms, allowing its weight to rest on your palms, your elbows, your body, not gripping, not forcing, simply allowing. The jar hasn't changed, but your relationship with its weight has, and suddenly it becomes bearable. This is the essence of softness, not removing life's burdens, but learning how to hold them differently. There was once a young woman who visited a Zen master, overwhelmed by grief, exhausted by responsibility, weighed down by expectations she felt unable to meet. She said, "Master, I can't carry all of this anymore. It's too heavy. Tell me how to be strong." The master poured her a cup of tea, then gently held the cup in his hands and said, "This cup is life. When you grip it tightly, it feels heavy. When you hold it softly, it feels light. Strength is not in the grip, it is in the softness." She stared at him confused. He added, "Becoming softer is how you become stronger." Softness does not mean collapsing under pressure. It means releasing the inner struggle that intensifies the pressure. It means choosing gentleness when your conditioning tells you to tense. It means breathing when everything in you wants to hold your breath. It means trusting that you don't need to fight life to move through it. Think of bamboo. It bends with the wind, but does not break. It yields to pressure, but remains rooted. Its flexibility is its power. Your spirit is the same. It was never meant to be hardened by survival or stiffened by fear. It was meant to bend, to flow, to adapt, to open. Ask yourself gently, where in my life am I trying to be too strong? Where am I holding tension instead of allowing softness? Where am I demanding perfection instead of offering myself compassion? Where am I gripping something that life is asking me to release? Softness is a form of wisdom. The wisdom that pressure is not always a sign to push harder. Sometimes it is a sign to soften, to surrender the fight, to open your palms instead of clenching your fists. And the moment you soften, something miraculous happens. The weight you carry becomes lighter, not because it has changed, but because you have changed. The truth is, your heart is not tired of feeling. Your heart is tired of being armored. Your soul is not tired of growing. Your soul is tired of resisting growth. Your mind is not tired of thinking. Your mind is tired of fighting its own thoughts. Softness is the medicine. Softness is the path. Softness is the doorway back to yourself. Imagine for a moment that you stop trying to fix everything. Stop trying to force clarity. Stop trying to carry the world on your shoulders. Imagine that instead, you take one slow breath, unclench your jaw, relax your shoulders, soften your gaze, and whisper inwardly, "I don't have to hold this so tightly." Feel how your body responds. Feel how your heart loosens. Feel how your breath deepens. Not because anything external changed, but because softness created space where resistance once lived. Buddhism teaches that peace is not something you achieve by conquering life. Peace is something you uncover when you stop fighting it. Softness is the quiet courage that allows you to meet life exactly as it is, with an open heart instead of a closed one, with acceptance instead of fear, with presence instead of tension. And one day, perhaps when you least expect it, you will look back on this chapter and realize that the moments you softened were the moments you grew. The moments you let go were the moments you found your strength. The moments you surrendered were the moments life finally began to flow again. Your softness is not your weakness. It is your awakening. There comes a moment in your journey when the life you've been trying to build no longer feels aligned with the life your soul is quietly calling you toward. And this creates an ache that is difficult to name, a subtle dissatisfaction, a quiet restlessness, a feeling that something is missing, even if everything appears fine on the surface. And instead of listening to this inner whisper, most people work harder. distract themselves more, cling tighter to routines, bury themselves in responsibilities, hoping the ache will disappear. But in Buddhist wisdom, this ache is not a flaw or a failure. It is the invitation, the gentle pull of your deeper nature, urging you toward a more authentic way of living, one that cannot be reached through force, but only through awareness. You are not meant to abandon your life, you are meant to awaken within it. Yet awakening often begins with discomfort, not dramatic suffering, not catastrophic change, but the quiet recognition that you've been living in fragments, one part of you moving forward, another part resisting, one part yearning for depth, another terrified of it, one part craving freedom, another clinging to familiarity. This inner split creates tension fatigue and a lingering sense of disconnection. Buddhism teaches that true awakening is the process of returning to wholeness, of aligning your inner world with your outer actions, of listening to the truth beneath the noise. Imagine walking through a dense forest carrying a lantern with only a small flame. The path is dim, the shadows long, and you move cautiously, unsure where to step next. Suddenly, a gust of wind arrives, not strong enough to extinguish the flame, but strong enough to shake the lantern. And for a moment, everything feels unstable. But as you continue walking, you realize the gust was not there to frighten you. It was there to force you to protect the flame more consciously, to hold it with both hands instead of one, to walk with awareness rather than habit. This is how life nudges you through subtle disturbances that compel you to become more awake. There was once a musician who mastered every technical aspect of his instrument. He played flawlessly, always praised, always admired. Yet inside he felt hollow. The music was beautiful, but it wasn't alive. One day during a performance, a string on his instrument snapped, forcing him to improvise, to play from instinct rather than skill. The audience held their breath, expecting failure, but what emerged was the most heartfelt music he had ever created. Afterward, he realized he had spent years perfecting sound, but avoiding emotion, hiding behind technique, instead of expressing truth. The broken string had awakened the part of him he had long neglected. Awakening often comes the same way, not through perfection, but through disruption. Not through certainty, but through doubt. Not through control, but through surrender to what the moment is asking of you. Ask yourself gently, where am I living on autopilot? Where am I ignoring the quiet truths rising inside me? Where am I holding on to identities that no longer express my deepest self? What parts of me have I silenced because they seemed inconvenient, unrealistic, or too vulnerable? Awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is about becoming who you were before. Fear taught you to shrink. It is the unlearning of old patterns, the dissolving of outdated identities, the remembering of forgotten truths. And yet awakening requires courage, not loud courage, not heroic courage, but the quiet courage to sit with your own inner experience, without running, without numbing, without performing. It requires the courage to ask yourself the questions you've avoided, to feel the emotions you've suppressed, to acknowledge the longing you've denied. You cannot awaken to your life while abandoning your inner world. The world will always ask for more from you, more productivity, more success, more certainty, more strength. But your soul does not speak the language of more. Your soul speaks the language of truth, of presence, of depth, of alignment. And until you listen, the ache remains. Sometimes awakening looks like slowing down. Sometimes it looks like setting boundaries. Sometimes it looks like saying no to what drains you. Sometimes it looks like saying yes to what scares you. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like returning home to yourself. You don't have to transform your entire life to awaken. You only have to take one honest breath, one moment of genuine presence, one step toward the truth that frightens you just as much as it frees you. And in that moment of honesty, something begins to shift, not dramatically, not loudly, but unmistakably. The ache becomes softer, more like guidance than pain. The confusion becomes curiosity. The exhaustion becomes clarity. You begin to see that awakening is not a destination, but a continuous returning, a remembering, a rediscovery of the path that was always under your feet. One day, you will look back and understand that the quiet ache you once tried to escape was actually the voice of your deepest self, calling you home, not to a place, not to an identity, but to alignment, presence, and truth. You are not lost. You are awakening. And the path is unfolding exactly as it needs to. There are times in your life when you feel an invisible heaviness pressing against your heart, not the heaviness of sorrow, not the heaviness of heartbreak, but a quieter, more elusive weight. The weight of unspoken truths, unmade decisions, unlived dreams, ignored intuition. A heaviness that builds slowly, almost imperceptibly, until one day you wake up and realize you've been carrying the burden of your own silence for far too long. And this silence is not the peaceful stillness of awareness. It is the silence you create when you suppress what your soul has been trying to tell you, the silence of swallowed feelings, postponed desires, and the words you never dared to speak. In Buddhist wisdom, this kind of silence is the seed of suffering, because every time you choose to ignore your inner truth, you split yourself into two, the self you show the world and the self you deny within. This division is subtle, but powerful. It shows up as exhaustion that sleep cannot cure. It shows up as restlessness, even when life looks stable. It shows up as the quiet fear that you are drifting away from yourself. And the mind, conditioned to avoid discomfort, tries to fix the heaviness by adding more noise, more work, more distraction, more obligations, more pretending. But noise cannot heal what silence created. Only truth can. There was once a poet who had written thousands of verses, yet she felt empty each time she finished a poem. Her words were beautiful, admired by many, but they no longer felt alive to her. One evening, while sitting by a river, she overheard a child humming a tune, raw, imperfect, spontaneous, and something in her broke open. She realized she had spent years writing the poems she believed the world wanted, not the poems her soul needed. She had silenced her own voice beneath layers of expectation and identity. The next morning, she began writing differently, messy, honest, unpolished, real. And though her new work startled those who loved her old style, it finally felt like breathing. This is what happens when you stop silencing yourself. Your life begins to breathe again. Your spirit begins to return. Your inner world begins to unclench. Ask yourself gently, what truth am I most afraid to admit to myself? What desire have I buried because others might not understand it? What emotion have I numbed because feeling it felt too risky? What part of me have I abandoned in order to be accepted? These questions are not meant to wound you. They are meant to free you. Because a life built on suppression cannot lead to peace. It only leads to a slow erosion of the self. And the universe, wise and compassionate, refuses to let you shrink indefinitely. It sends signals, small at first, then louder, nudging you toward alignment. A missed opportunity, a sudden dissatisfaction, a relationship that no longer feels like home, a dream that keeps returning no matter how many times you try to dismiss it. These are not accidents, they are invitations. But the deepest invitation is this: to speak your truth inwardly before you ever speak it outwardly, to acknowledge what you feel, to stop lying to yourself about what you want, to honor what is rising within you, even if it scares you. In Buddhist teaching, this is called right intention, a return to honesty, not with the world, but with your own heart. And honesty does not require drastic action. It requires presence. It requires listening. It requires the courage to sit with truths that shake the foundation of your identity. Sometimes truth reveals that a dream you once loved no longer fits who you are. Sometimes truth reveals that your heart has been lonely even in a crowded room. Sometimes truth reveals that you've been pretending to be smaller than you are. Sometimes truth reveals that you want something different, deeper, softer, truer. And though truth can feel terrifying, it is never destructive. What destroys you is the avoidance of truth, the tightness of suppression, the weight of pretending. Truth once faced is always liberating. Imagine a river blocked by stones. The water cannot flow, so it builds pressure, swelling, rising until it finally overflows. The river is not angry. The blockage simply prevents its natural movement, and the overflow is the river's way of reclaiming its path. Your emotions are the same. When you block them, they don't disappear. They accumulate, they strain, they push to be acknowledged. When you finally allow them to flow, even if that flow begins with tears or confusion, relief arrives, clarity follows, and you begin to feel aligned again. You cannot heal in a life where you silence yourself. You cannot awaken in a life where you abandon your truth. You cannot find peace in a life that requires you to pretend. Softly, gently, courageously, allow yourself to return to your inner voice, the one you quieted for years to maintain stability, to avoid conflict, to protect others, to fit an image of who you believed you needed to be. Your truth is not a threat. It is your compass. It is your liberation. It is your path home. One day, you will realize that the heaviness you carried was simply the weight of everything left unsaid within you. And the moment you speak inwardly, truthfully, compassionately, the weight begins to dissolve. You return. You breathe. You align. And the life that once felt too small begins to expand in ways you never expected. There comes a moment in your inner journey when you realize that the person you are becoming quietly demands a life that the person you used to be is afraid to live. And this moment is terrifying, not because you are weak, not because you are unprepared, but because you can feel the edges of your old self beginning to dissolve like a tide, slowly pulling away from the shore, revealing truths you never had the courage to face when the waters were high. This is the threshold of transformation, the place where the familiar begins to feel too small, and the unknown begins to shimmer with possibility, even if you still don't trust it. In Buddhist wisdom, this moment is known as the crossing, the subtle but undeniable point where the old path ends and the new one begins, not with a dramatic decision, not with a bold declaration, but with a quiet inner shift, a recognition that you can no longer pretend to be the person your past conditioned you to be. You begin to feel it in your body, in your breath, in the way your heart reacts when you betray your own boundaries, in the way your spirit tightens when you say yes to things that drain you, in the way your mind rebels when you continue living by rules that no longer reflect who you truly are. And yet, transformation does not arrive gently. It arrives as tension. It arrives as fear. It arrives as the uneasy knowing that staying where you are is now more painful than moving into the unknown. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking a valley. Behind you is the world you've always known, predictable, familiar, filled with roles and identities you learn to inhabit even if they never fit. Ahead is the valley of your becoming, vast, uncertain, calling you closer with a voice that sounds like both longing and truth. Most people turn back, not because the valley is dangerous, but because the edge feels frightening. The mind clings to the cliff, whispering, "It's safer here. Stay where you know yourself." But the soul whispers something else. You cannot grow by staying where you've already been. There was once a potter who crafted delicate bowls, each one symmetrical and flawless, shaped by years of discipline and skill. One day as he worked, his hands trembled, not from age, but from an inner shift he couldn't explain, causing the clay to warp. Disheartened, he set the imperfect bowl aside. But when a visitor came to his workshop the next day, they were drawn not to the perfect bowls, but to the warped one. "This one," the visitor said softly, "feels alive." Something in the potter awakened. For the first time in years, he allowed his hands to move freely, to create shapes that were unplanned, irregular, expressive. His work was no longer perfect, but it was true. The trembling wasn't a mistake. It was transformation calling. The potter simply needed to stop resisting it. Ask yourself gently, where do you feel the tremble in your own life? Where is your soul asking you to expand beyond the boundaries you once believed were fixed? Where are you being asked not to perfect yourself, but to express yourself? This tremble, the discomfort, the uncertainty is not a sign you're going the wrong way. It's the sign that your inner world is shifting into alignment with your truth, but the mind fears what it cannot predict, so it tries to pull you backward using the same tools it has always used: doubt, self-criticism, attachment to old identities, the illusion that certainty equals safety. Yet Buddhism teaches that clinging to the past is the root of suffering. And the moment you stop clinging, the moment you release the belief that your past defines your future, the moment you allow the tremble to guide you instead of frighten you, your path begins to open. You begin to see that the version of you you're outgrowing wasn't wrong. It simply carried you as far as it could. The beliefs that once protected you may now be holding you back. The relationships that once felt safe may now feel confining. The dreams that once inspired you may now feel outdated. And that's okay. Outgrowing yourself is not betrayal, it is evolution. There is a teaching in Zen that says, a snake that does not shed its skin must die. But the shedding is not graceful, it is raw, it is vulnerable, it is uncomfortable, and still it is necessary. You are shedding, not because you're broken, but because you're ready. Not because you're lost, but because you're expanding. Not because life pushed you too far, but because life knows your wings are stronger than your fear. One day, the tremble you feel now will make perfect sense. One day, you will see that every moment of discomfort was guiding you toward the life that was waiting for you all along. One day, you will realize that stepping into the valley was not the moment you lost yourself, it was the moment you returned. The path is here. The tremble is your compass, and you are more ready than you think. There comes a moment in the journey of becoming when you begin to sense that the life you are gently stepping into requires a version of you that your past has never met, a version of you that is quieter, truer, more grounded, more awake. And this realization doesn't arrive in a burst of clarity. It arrives in fragments and whispers, In the subtle way, life begins to reveal the places where you've been living small, hiding behind familiar patterns, or clinging to versions of yourself shaped more by survival than by truth. At first, this recognition feels unsettling, as though you're slowly waking up inside a room you didn't realize you had built for yourself, a room made of old habits, old fears, old expectations. Something in you knows it's time to step out. Yet another part hesitates, unsure where the doorway even is. This is the threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. The space where transformation begins, not through action, but through awareness. In Buddhist wisdom, this is known as the turning of the mind, the quiet pivot, where your inner orientation shifts from unconscious patterns to conscious presence, from autopilot to awakening. It doesn't matter how long you have been asleep. The moment you turn inward, your entire path begins to change. At this threshold, life often sends small but powerful signs, a conversation that awakens something long forgotten, a moment of stillness that feels strangely sacred, a sudden recognition that your old way of living is too heavy, a longing for simplicity, truth depth, something you can't yet name. These signs are not coincidences. They are invitations, but invitations require acceptance, and acceptance requires honesty. Honesty about what you truly feel, honesty about what you truly want, honesty about what you no longer want to carry. Most people avoid this honesty because it threatens the structures that keep their lives predictable. They fear that if they tell themselves the truth, everything will have to change. But in reality, the truth does not destroy your life. It reorganizes it. It doesn't tear down what is real. It only dissolves what is false. Imagine a glass of water filled with sediment that has settled at the bottom over time. The water looks clear, but only because nothing has stirred it. The moment you gently move the glass, the sediment rises, clouding the water, not because the water became dirty, but because it was always there, waiting to be seen. This is what awakening feels like, the stirring of your inner world, the rise of the emotions, the old stories, the forgotten wounds you've carried silently. It feels messy at first, but only by allowing everything to rise can the water finally become clear again. There was once a traveler who carried a heavy backpack everywhere he went. Over the years, he had forgotten what he'd packed inside it. He only knew he couldn't go anywhere without feeling exhausted. One day, he met an old monk who asked, "Why do you carry such a heavy load?" The traveler replied, "I don't know how to put it down." The monk smiled and said, "Then sit and let's open it together." Inside the bag were items the traveler no longer needed. Old maps of places he'd never returned to, tools he would never use, objects he once believed were essential, but now had no purpose. With each item he removed, he felt lighter, freer, more himself. By the time the bag was empty, he realized something profound. Nothing in the bag had been a burden, only his refusal to open it. Your heart is that backpack. Your unspoken fears, your outdated stories, your inherited beliefs. These are the items you've been carrying. And the threshold you stand on now is the moment when life invites you to finally open the bag. Ask yourself gently, what am I still carrying that no longer belongs to me? Which fears are inherited, not chosen? Which dreams are real, and which were built to earn approval? Which parts of my identity feel like truth, and which feel like armor? These questions are not meant to pressure you. They are meant to free you. You see, transformation is not about forcing yourself into a new shape. It is about removing what no longer fits. It is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to the self you abandoned along the way. it is not about performing your healing. It is about allowing your inner landscape to shift naturally, gently, compassionately. And yet the mind, programmed by years of conditioning, resists. It clings to old stories because they feel familiar. It clings to old habits because they feel safe. It clings to old identities because they provide a sense of certainty. But Buddhism teaches that identity is not a solid structure. It is a flowing river. You are not meant to stay who you were. You are meant to evolve, expand, dissolve, rediscover. And resisting this natural evolution is like trying to hold your breath underwater. You can do it for a while, but eventually, life demands that you breathe. Your next breath, the breath your soul is asking for, may require releasing something you never imagined you could let go of. A belief, a fear, a role, a pattern, a version of you that once ensured your survival, but now restricts your growth. Letting go is not an act of force, it is an act of trust. Trust that what remains will be true. Trust that what comes will be aligned. Trust that what leaves was never meant to stay. And slowly, as you trust, you begin to feel the shift. Your chest softens, your breathing deepens, your mind quiets, your intuition grows louder. Your life begins aligning in small, unexpected ways. This is the beginning of your becoming. Not loud, not dramatic, but unmistakably real. One day you will look back and understand that this threshold, the moment when everything felt uncertain, when your inner world felt stirred, when you felt the gentle ache of becoming, was the exact moment your life began to change. Not because you forced anything, but because you finally listened. You are not at the edge of your life. You are at the beginning of your truth, and the path ahead is waiting for you to step into it with the soft courage that has always been yours. There comes a moment in your inner unfolding when you begin to feel the quiet truth that everything you have been seeking, peace, clarity, freedom, purpose, has never been hiding somewhere far away, waiting for you to reach some distant milestone. It has been here within you, softly knocking, waiting patiently for you to stop looking outward long enough to finally hear it. And yet this truth often arrives only after you have exhausted every other path, after chasing approval, success, security, belonging, only to discover that each one brings relief, but never completion. This realization is unsettling because it confronts the part of you that believed fulfillment would come from the outside world, from achieving more, being more, doing more. But in Buddhist wisdom, fulfillment is not something you acquire. It is something you uncover. This uncovering, however, requires a shift that many resist the willingness to turn inward, not as an escape, not as avoidance, but as a homecoming. Yet before this homecoming unfolds, there is often a period of disorientation, a subtle fear that if you stop seeking externally, your life will fall apart. A fear that if you stop striving, you will become stagnant. A fear that if you stop performing the version of yourself the world has rewarded, you will lose your place, your identity, your meaning. This fear is natural. Every transformation begins with resistance. Imagine a lantern covered in layers of dust. Over the years, the lantern's glow appears to dim, not because the flame has weakened, but because the layers have thickened. You try polishing the outside, replacing the wick, adjusting the flame, yet nothing changes. Only when you begin wiping away the dust from the surface do you realize the light was never lost. It was simply hidden. Your inner light works the same way. the world teaches you to chase, to strive, to accumulate, to compare. But enlightenment is not a chase. Enlightenment is the removal of what blocks your view. There was once a sculptor known for creating breathtaking statues from stone. When asked how he created such masterpieces, he said, "I do not create the sculpture. I simply remove what is not the sculpture." In this simple phrase lies a profound truth. Awakening is not the addition of anything. It is the subtraction of what is false. Ask yourself gently, what am I holding on to that hides my inner light? What beliefs have I accepted that no longer serve my growth? What fears keep me running instead of returning? What stories do I tell myself that dim the flame of who I truly am? You are not becoming someone new. You are revealing what has always been beneath the noise. And yet this revealing is not easy. It requires a courage far quieter and far deeper than the courage the world praises. The courage to be honest with yourself. The courage to face your loneliness, your longing, your old wounds. The courage to sit in silence long enough for truth to rise. Most people avoid this level of intimacy with themselves because the outer world offers endless distractions, tasks, obligations, screens, noise, anything to keep you from hearing the truth, whispering from within. But there comes a moment, a sacred moment, when the distractions lose their power, when the noise no longer numbs, when the external world no longer feels like enough, when something deep inside you says, "I am ready for truth now." In Buddhist teachings, this is called the opening of the inner gate, a moment when awareness turns inward, not out of necessity, but out of readiness. And once this gate opens, even slightly, nothing in your life remains the same. You begin to feel more. You begin to notice more. You begin to question gently, rather than mechanically obeying your old patterns. You begin to sense what nourishes you and what drains you. You begin to hear your intuition, the voice that was always there, but buried under layers of conditioning. And as your awareness deepens, the world around you begins to shift, not because it has changed, but because you are seeing it with new eyes. A simple conversation becomes meaningful. A moment of stillness becomes healing. A breath becomes a connection. A sunrise becomes a teaching. Life, which once felt random or burdensome, begins to feel intentional, textured, alive. But this awakening is not a straight line. Some days you will feel expansive and clear. Other days you will feel confused, contracted, overwhelmed. The old self does not dissolve all at once. It loosens in layers. And with each layer that falls away, you feel lighter, not because life becomes easier, but because you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Think of a tree shedding its leaves. It does not cling to them because they once served a purpose. It releases them effortlessly, trusting the process of renewal. You too are asked to trust this shedding, not to force it, not to rush it, but to allow it. Ask yourself softly, where am I trying too hard to hold together something life is asking me to release? Where am I resisting the call to return inward? Where am I afraid to let go because I don't yet trust who I might become? The inner journey is not one of perfection. It is one of presence. You are not meant to transcend your humanity. You are meant to embrace it with awareness. And here is the most beautiful part. The more you return inward, the more life flows outward in alignment. The more you slow down, the more clarity reveals itself. The more you soften, the more strength emerges. The more you listen inwardly, the more the world begins to make sense outwardly. One day, you will realize that nothing was missing. Not the peace, not the meaning, not the wholeness, not the path. You were simply turned in the wrong direction. And the moment you turn inward, truly turn, the world becomes not a burden, but a mirror. Not a battlefield, but a teacher. Not a place you endure, but a place you awaken within. You have not been lost. You have been preparing. And now the path within you is beginning to reveal itself. There comes a point in your inner evolution when you begin to realize that the very things you thought were obstacles, the delays, the disappointments, the detours, the closed doors, were not standing in your way at all. They were the way. And this realization doesn't arrive with fireworks or sudden clarity. It arrives slowly, as a soft understanding, like dawn seeping through a window. It begins in the quiet, noticing that life has been guiding you not in the direction you wanted, but in the direction you needed. A direction your mind resisted, but your soul quietly recognized. For most of your life, you were taught that progress is linear, that if you do the right things, plan carefully, push hard enough, life should unfold according to your expectations. But Buddhist wisdom reveals a deeper truth. Life unfolds by wisdom, not by will. And the universe has its own timing, its own intelligence, its own rhythm that cannot be accelerated by force, nor disrupted by frustration. The very moments you thought were setbacks were actually alignments in disguise. Imagine walking through a vast forest with only a small lantern in your hand. You want to see the entire path, to know every twist and turn, to map the journey in advance, but the lantern shows only a few feet ahead. You can cry for the whole path. You can resist the limited light. You can freeze in fear, or you can take one step, and then the next. And with each step, more of the forest reveals itself, not because the forest changes, but because you moved. This is how the path of life unfolds, through movement, through trust, through surrender to what is illuminated in this single moment. There was once a traveler who complained that he kept encountering obstacles on his journey: fallen branches, flooded roads, steep cliffs. Each time he cursed his luck. But an old monk walking beside him said, "Look closer. The branches made you slow down so you wouldn't miss the bridge. The flooded path pushed you toward shelter before the storm arrived. The cliff forced you to take the higher route that revealed the valley. The obstacle is not blocking your way. It is carving your way." The traveler stared at the monk, realizing that what he perceived as hindrances were actually protection and guidance. The path had been wiser than his plans. Ask yourself softly, what am I calling an obstacle that might actually be protection? What disappointment might have saved me from something I wasn't meant to carry? What detour brought me to something I didn't know I needed? What ending made space for a beginning I couldn't have seen otherwise? Life whispers answers through experience, not explanation. And when you look back, even at the moments that felt unbearable, you begin to see that nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Nothing was meaningless. The relationship that ended taught you self-worth. The job you lost pushed you toward your real calling. The dream that dissolved made room for one more aligned with your soul. The solitude you feared became the space where you finally met yourself. But during the pain, you couldn't see it. During the confusion, you didn't understand. During the chaos, you questioned everything. And that's okay. Wisdom rarely arrives when the wound is fresh. It emerges slowly, quietly, after the heart has softened and the mind has stilled. Buddhism teaches that life is always happening for you, not to you. But this truth can only be seen through the lens of awareness. When you awaken, you begin to trust that the universe is not punishing you. It is positioning you. Life is not withholding. It is arranging. The timing is not delayed. It is precise. And this trust is not blind. It is experiential. You earn it by living, by falling, by rising, by surviving moments you thought would break you. Slowly, you begin to understand that every twist in the path was shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you for a deeper alignment with your true nature. Think of a river. When a rock blocks the flow, the water does not fight. It does not curse the stone. It simply adjusts curves, finds a new path, and in doing so becomes stronger, more fluid, more alive. The river remains the river, but the obstacle changes its course in ways that make it more resilient. You are that river. Your obstacles are shaping the contours of who you are becoming. Ask yourself again, what if nothing has gone wrong? What if everything has been right on time? What if the universe has been rearranging your life so you can finally align with the truth you were afraid to claim? There is a profound turning point in the spiritual journey when you stop resisting life's wisdom and begin trusting its unfolding. In that moment, the mind releases its tight grip on control, the heart softens, and the body relaxes. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to see differently. You begin to live differently. You realize that the path, even when unclear, is always guiding you. You realize that the uncertainty, even when uncomfortable, is shaping you. You realize that the obstacles, even when painful, are refining you. You realize that the universe has never been against you. It has been sculpting you. And in this realization, something inside you finally exhales. The resistance melts. The fear loosens. The tension dissolves. You allow life to lead, not because you've given up, but because you've woken up to the truth that life has always known the way. One day, you will look back at the moments you feared the most and whisper, "Thank you." Not because they were easy, but because they were essential. Not because they were painless, but because they were purposeful. Not because they were comfortable, but because they awakened you. The path you're on is not random. It is not wrong. It is not misaligned. It is yours, crafted with precision, wisdom, and deep compassion. Trust it. Trust yourself. Trust the unfolding. There comes a moment in your inner awakening when you begin to feel the quiet truth that the life you are seeking cannot be built upon the same patterns that once protected you. And this realization is both liberating and frightening. Liberating because it reveals the possibility of a new way of being. Frightening because it asks you to release the very defenses, narratives, and habits that once helped you survive. This conflict between who you were and who you are becoming creates an inner tension that can feel like standing in two worlds at once, one foot in the past, one foot in the unknown. And this in-between space, though uncomfortable, is sacred. It is the place where transformation begins. In Buddhist wisdom, this threshold is known as the gate of choice, a subtle inner doorway you walk through, not with your feet, but with your awareness. And standing before this gate, life asks you one quiet but life-changing question. Are you willing to stop repeating who you were so you can become who you truly are? At first, the question feels overwhelming because the patterns you are being asked to release were not mistakes. They were survival strategies. Your overthinking was once protection. Your people pleasing was once belonging. Your self-criticism was once discipline. Your emotional armor was once safety. Your avoidance was once a way to endure. But as you awaken, these same patterns begin to suffocate the person you are growing into. Imagine a snake outgrowing its skin. For a time, the old skin was comfort, warmth, identity. But as the snake expands, the skin begins to constrict, to itch, to restrict movement. The snake does not shed because the skin was wrong. It sheds because it's time. Your soul is the same. You are shedding, not because the past was a mistake, but because your future is asking for more space. There was once a man who lived inside a house with very low ceilings. He grew up believing that hunching his shoulders was normal. Whenever he tried to stand tall, he hit his head, so he learned to bend. He lived this way for years, unaware that his posture was shaped not by his nature, but by his environment. One day, he visited a temple with ceilings so high they seemed to touch the sky. Without thinking, he stood fully upright for the first time in his life. His back cracked, his chest expanded. He felt breath he didn't know he was capable of. The monk beside him smiled and said, "Your body remembers its truth the moment it finds space." The man realized he had never been weak. He had simply been living in a space too small for him. Many people live their whole lives in emotional rooms with ceilings too low. Rooms built from childhood conditioning. Rooms reinforced by fear. Rooms decorated with old stories. But now life is inviting you to step into a space where you can finally stand tall. Ask yourself gently, what walls in my life have become too tight for who I am becoming? Which patterns once kept me safe, but now keep me small? Where am I still bending out of habit, not truth? Which version of me am I afraid to outgrow? Awakening requires a kind of courage that is rarely loud. It is not the courage to climb mountains. It is the courage to sit with yourself, to witness your own shadows without judgment, to see where you've been lying to yourself because the lie felt familiar, to acknowledge where you've been shrinking because shrinking kept the peace, to admit that your freedom may require disappointing the versions of yourself that others preferred. And yet, there is a moment, a quiet one, when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. You begin to sense that the cost of staying the same has become greater than the fear of change. Your soul starts asking for honesty. Your body begins rejecting what no longer resonates. Your intuition grows louder than your conditioning. Your desires begin to feel more like directions. This is the turning point. This is the moment the door opens. This is where you choose alignment over certainty. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the moment of recognition is the moment of freedom, because once you see a pattern clearly, you cannot remain unconscious within it. Awareness breaks the spell. Awareness disrupts the cycle. Awareness loosens the grip of the past, and slowly, gently, you begin to shift. You respond instead of reacting. You speak your truth instead of remaining silent. You listen inwardly instead of obeying outward expectations. You set boundaries where you once abandoned yourself. You choose presence over performance. You choose freedom over familiarity. The shift is not sudden. It is not dramatic. It is steady, organic, inevitable, like a river carving a new path. Each small choice becomes a thread in the tapestry of your becoming. Each breath you take in truth brings you one step closer to yourself. Each moment of awareness dissolves another layer of the old self. And one day, without realizing when it happened, you notice something. The life you are living no longer feels like a performance. It feels like a reflection. The person you are choosing to be no longer feels like a mask. It feels like a homecoming. The path ahead no longer feels frightening. It feels aligned. You return to yourself. You rise into a version of life that welcomes your wholeness instead of requiring your fragmentation. You awaken not by becoming someone new, but by remembering who you were before fear taught you to forget. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. And everything you are stepping into was always meant for the person you are becoming now. There comes a moment in your journey when you begin to sense that the peace you've been chasing through achievements, relationships, validation routines cannot be found in anything outside of you. Not because those things are meaningless, but because they were never meant to hold the weight of your wholeness. And gradually, you begin to see that the source of your inner conflict is not the world itself, but the ways in which you have been pulled away from your own center, your own breath, your own presence, your own truth. This realization does not arrive loudly. It arrives as a gentle noticing that even on good days, something inside still feels unsettled, that even surrounded by others, a quiet loneliness lingers, that even when life is working, you can feel something missing. This missing piece is not a person, not a place, not a purpose. It is your connection to yourself. And in Buddhist wisdom, this disconnection is the root of suffering. Not because you lack anything, but because you have become absorbed by the noise around you, forgetting the silence within you. The journey home is not about gaining, but remembering. Not about becoming stronger, but becoming softer. Not about conquering yourself, but returning to yourself. Imagine for a moment a lake. When the wind is strong, the water ripples, the surface distorts, and the reflections disappear. But the lake itself has not changed, only its surface has. The moment the wind softens, the clarity returns. This is your mind. The ripples are your thoughts. The wind is the world. And the clarity beneath has always been there, waiting for you to be still. There was once a monk who lived near a bustling village. People visited him, constantly seeking advice, answers, peace. One afternoon, a young man arrived, overwhelmed by stress and confusion. "Master," he said, "my mind is restless, always moving, always loud. I meditate, but nothing changes. Tell me what to do." The monk handed him a cup of water and a spoonful of sand. "Pour the sand into the cup," he instructed. The man did. The water became cloudy immediately. "Now keep stirring," the monk said. The man stirred. The water grew more chaotic, more muddy. The monk then said, "Set the spoon down." The man stopped stirring. They sat in silence. Slowly, the sand began to settle, the water clearing on its own, without force, without effort, without control. The monk finally spoke. "Your mind is not asking you to fight it. It is asking you to stop stirring. This is the essence of inner freedom. It is not something you create. It is something you uncover by ceasing the habits that continuously disturb your peace: overthinking, overanalyzing, self-judgment, constant striving, seeking validation, trying to control what was never yours to control. Ask yourself gently, where am I stirring the waters of my own mind? Where am I trying to force clarity instead of allowing it? Where am I fighting life instead of flowing with it? Where am I ignoring the stillness that has been waiting for me? The truth is, you don't need to become more peaceful. You need to become less distracted. You don't need to become more complete. You need to stop abandoning yourself. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remember who you were before the world convinced you to forget. As you return to yourself, something beautiful begins to happen. Not all at once, but in subtle shifts. You stop rushing through your days. You stop betraying your own needs. You stop forcing conversations that drain you. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop trying to carry emotions that were never yours. You stop fighting the present moment. And when you stop fighting life, life stops fighting you. Your needs become clearer. Your choices become gentler. Your breath becomes deeper. Your intuition grows louder. Your relationships become more honest. Your presence becomes more grounded. This is the return to your center, the place within you that does not move even when life does. The still point, the quiet observer, the part of you that is not your fear, not your past, not your expectations, not your doubt, the part of you that is awareness itself. In Buddhist teachings, this is your true home, the home you carry everywhere, the home you can return to at any moment, simply by remembering to breathe, to pause, to witness, instead of react. And as you reconnect with this inner home, the world begins to feel different, not because it changes, but because you do. Situations that once triggered you lose their power. Conversations that once drained you no longer stick to you. People who once intimidated you no longer define you. Fear loses its edge. Chaos loses its grip. Loneliness becomes solitude. Silence becomes sanctuary. And slowly, you realize something profound. You were never searching for peace. You were searching for yourself, and now you are beginning to return. One day, when you look back on this chapter, you will see that the longing, the unrest, the discomfort you felt was not a sign that something was wrong. It was the call of your inner home pulling you back. You were not lost. You were being guided inward. And now, you are stepping into the life that was always waiting for the version of you who could finally be present enough to live it. There comes a moment, quiet, unforced, unmistakable, when you realize that everything you've been searching for along this journey has been guiding you not toward some distant destination, but back into the deepest chambers of your own being. And this realization is not dramatic. It feels more like an exhale. You didn't know you'd been holding, a soft release of everything you once believed you had to become, and a gentle acceptance of everything you already are. Throughout your life, you have been conditioned to believe that peace must be earned, that healing must be proven, that awakening is a reward granted only to those who strive hard enough. But in Buddhist wisdom, peace is not a destination, it is your nature. Awakening is not a reward. It is your birthright. Healing is not a test. It is a remembering. And the moment you stop chasing, forcing, performing, the moment you sit with yourself with honesty and compassion, the truth reveals itself effortlessly. You are already whole. But this wholeness was covered, hidden beneath layers of fear, expectations, self-judgment, old stories, and the weight of trying to be who the world needed you to be. Every chapter of your journey has been peeling those layers away, not to make you someone new, but to return you to the person you were before the world taught you otherwise. It begins with the quiet recognition that your worth has never depended on achievement, that your peace has never depended on circumstances, that your joy has never depended on perfection, that your power has never depended on control, that your purpose has never depended on a title, a role, or a path outside yourself. Imagine a mirror covered in dust. The mirror does not lose its ability to reflect. It is simply unable to shine through the layers obscuring its surface. One by one, each layer, fear, doubt, self-blame, attachment, has been gently wiped away through the teachings, reflections, awakenings you've encountered. And now, as the last layer softens, you begin to see your own reflection clearly again, not the reflection shaped by survival, but the reflection shaped by truth. There was once a young seeker who spent years traveling from temple to temple, searching for enlightenment. He asked every monk, every teacher, "What must I do to awaken?" Some told him to meditate deeply. Some told him to study sacred texts. Others told him to serve, to renounce, to discipline the mind. He tried everything, yet awakening eluded him. One day, exhausted, he sat beneath a tree beside a quiet pond. A gentle breeze passed, creating ripples on the water. The seeker watched the ripples fade until the surface became still again, clear, reflective, peaceful. And in that stillness, he finally understood the pond did not force itself into clarity. It simply stopped being disturbed. Awakening is not force. Awakening is clarity. Awakening is the stillness beneath the ripples of your life. Ask yourself gently, what are the ripples that still disturb my inner pond? Old fears, old attachments, old wounds, old beliefs about who I must be. And what happens if I simply stop stirring them? If I allow the waters to settle on their own? This is the final lesson. You have never needed to fix yourself. You have only needed to stop disturbing your own peace. In the stillness, you begin to see that your pain was your teacher. Your confusion was your compass. Your heartbreak was your opening. Your fear was your invitation. Your silence was your sanctuary. Your awakening was your return. And now, standing at the end of this journey, you realize something profound. You were never broken. You were never behind. You were never lost. You were unfolding. Every moment of surrender brought you closer to truth. Every moment of stillness brought you closer to yourself. Every moment of letting go brought you closer to freedom. And freedom in its purest form is not the absence of difficulty. It is the absence of resistance. It is the ability to meet life with openness, to allow emotions to flow without fear, to witness thoughts without attachment, to walk your path without needing certainty. You no longer need to be the person you once were. You no longer need to chase the life you were taught to want. You no longer need to shrink, to hide, to harden, to pretend. You are allowed to live gently. You are allowed to live truthfully. You are allowed to live slowly. You are allowed to live in alignment with the quiet wisdom rising within you. And as you walk forward from this chapter, carry this truth with you. Peace is not something you seek. It is something you allow. Awakening is not something you achieve. It is something you uncover. You are not becoming whole. You have always been whole. May you move through the world with the softness of someone who has nothing to prove, the clarity of someone who has learned to listen inwardly, and the freedom of someone who finally remembers who they are. This is not the end of your journey. This is the beginning of your true one.